What's up? Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. I just got back from a park hang. Anybody else hanging in the park these days? I was in Prospect Park. You know where it's at. Somebody's birthday. We celebrated. We had some cake. And check this out, you guys. You may have heard of this already. I just learned about this recently. But it turns out that the new slang for hot dog is glizzy. You ever heard about that? Glizzies? Once you hear the word glizzy, it's almost impossible not to say glizzy all the time. And that's where I'm at right now. So we passed a hot dog stand, and what did we do? We got a couple glizzies. Ate them up. It's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy sounding, the word glizzy, but I like it quite a bit. The Toronto crew. The French word for hot dog is chien chaud. I think that glizzy, just say it out loud. You know, while you're sitting here, just do yourself a favor and say the word glizzy. I'll have 2 glizzies, please. There's also think about like a hot dog eating contest. You know, it's like glizzy guzzling. I'm not sure if it's like a euphemism for something else. I don't think it is. I think it's actually natural slang that developed for hot dogs themselves. If you look it up on, you know, memes.com. But I think it's safe. A safe meme. Yeah, anyway, that's cool. So parks are nice, you know, biking. It's a good temperature out. And that's why we're programming, right? Because the indoors takes us there, back to the indoors. So here's what we're gonna do today. I mean, I have a couple of ideas. One idea and one slightly unfortunate fact. Wait a minute. Move the spotlight search down here. Open up the stream labels. Can't forget about stream labels in the stream. It's an important part of the stream. One thing that's a slight bit unfortunate is that, you know, we did all this work last time to get this fetching business, this memory accounting for scans, if you remember, to get that all hooked up. And unfortunately, there's some problems. And the problems exist in the old CI environment. If you're familiar with these things, I'm sure you are. The old CI. And we're talking about failures in CI that don't reproduce on my laptop, all right? It's not a fun situation, but unfortunately I'm honor bound. Like so many warriors, like such a warrior to solve this problem. So we're gonna do that first up. I don't know. I mean, hopefully it won't be too painful. Let me first grab the old build log here. Grab the old build log. Sometimes it's hard to grab the old build log. Sometimes the internet just doesn't cooperate with you. So your stuff just kind of freezes up on you. Don't you hate it when that happens? Frozen build logs, man, it's absolutely the worst. But look, we're gonna fix this up. And then we may or may not get to another thing known as the old streaming. Does this work? Is this working? Or is it not working? Stream keeps cutting out for you. I'm all green. You know, I got green on my bitrate signals and stuff like that. So I'm afraid that I think it might be on your end. You guys want to see inside of the magic? I'm going to show you inside of the magic for a second so you can see the green. Ready? This is the first time I'm doing this. Here we go. Look at this. The magic. This is where it all goes down, ladies and gentlemen. You see down here, bottom right, you got your kilobytes per second display. And you see how that's a green color? That means we're crushing it on the streaming front. You know, no problems. And we can even go to the old where's that graph, you know? Where's the graph? Where's that graph at? Who knows where the graph's at? I don't know, whatever, I give up. But maybe you're right. I mean, because truthfully, like from time to time, null bitmap, I do get the old yellow and red little symbol in that square with the green. And that definitely is not a good thing. But I haven't gotten it so far today. I think it's like internet badness sometimes does happen to all of us. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, let's try to figure out what the heck is going on, all right? So this thing is like a big old log file. And I do see quite a bit of unhappy sadness. I see a situation in which we have unexpected leftover bytes, and that's quite a bit relevant to what we were doing. So we're gonna have to, I think the problem that I was having before is I couldn't find the right test to run to produce this problem. Maybe this is the right test, we're gonna find out. Where does this test live? Lives in here, make test. I think that there's some problem with, you know, close order. Close order is a very boring thing, I have to say. Talk about entertaining streaming content. Close order has to be up there. It's like near the top of the entertainment spectrum. At the very bottom, you have, you know, developing new features, doing things on screen quickly so that your viewers can actually see what's going on. And then, you know, you got like doing experiments, that's always fun, that's somewhere in the middle. And then at the top, at the very top, you have debugging mysterious failures where there's like nothing that you can see. That's like the most entertaining possible thing, right? That's what I think. That is what I think. So I talked about this a little bit last time. I've got these new headphones. See, this is some bullshit. What is, oh, I didn't put the right package name. I've got these new headphones. And the headphones are open back, which means that I can hear myself extremely clearly when I talk, so I don't have to yell. But I do worry, I do wonder, and I do worry that I sound different with them, because I sound different to myself. You avoid CI at all costs, so you cannot comment. That's a good call. So this guy, I think, what's his name? What's this guy's name? This guy's name is, Anthony, I think, right? Anthony Sotile. Oh yes, we got a big old panic. Okay, we're gonna investigate that in a second, but check this out. Anthony Sotile. This guy is another programming streamer that popped into my channel the other day with his people, which was awesome. But he's doing something very interesting. He's making something called precommit.ci. And precommit.ci, I don't exactly know what it is, but in my imagination, what it is a thing that allows you to automatically run tests before you have to push them. I mean, look, everything's a CI system if you're running tests in the cloud, so maybe this is incorrect, but my hope was that, you know, you'd have something where it just runs your tests in parallel in the cloud. You don't have to think about it and you don't get any kind of janky thing. I guess what I'm hoping for is just a better CI. So I don't know why this would be any better, but maybe it would be. This is just what it made me think of. Git commit hook scripts, you know what I mean? It's like you save your stuff and it automatically runs all the tests. That'd be sick. Same old Jordan sound. Okay, that's good. Good to know. Okay, so this is good, you know? Con close while producing rows. Yeah, it does sound the same as the windmill thing. You know, windmill. I think they changed their name. They changed their name to something else. It's called Tilt. Tilt.dev. Productivity for teams building Kubernetes apps. Smart rebuilds, continuous feedback, live updates, snapshots, and a lot more. Tilt up and grok your workflow. I think it's pretty cool stuff. I mean, I don't know what it does, but it looks snazzy. And as everybody knows, if you have a snazzy website, then that's like 90% of what you need to do to make a good product. But I think smart rebuilds, continuous feedback. I mean, what I really want, Snapchats and a whole lot more. You guys know this song? I don't know. I'm just popping off today. I feel like I'm just popping off. Do you know this song Slippers with a Z? Let me play this song for a second. This is a great song. I wonder if this is gonna get my stream muted. Slippers with a Z, I said. Not women's slippers. Jesus. Jesus. Okay. This song is so good. I just want to play this song for a second. We're just gonna have a listening party while I try to figure out what's wrong with this test. Slippers and so much more. Snapchats and a whole lot more. If I was Simply, I would just be going crazy right now, dropping rhymes. Unfortunately, I don't have that skill set. Actually, it's probably fortunate, right? Fortunate that I don't have that skill set. JRPG music. This song is really cool. It's like a little jazzy. It is Burled World. Yeah. I completely agree. It's totally the same kind of thing. I think there was a genre of this music that I think it's a little bit going away. I think it's called like, I don't know. Like smooth wave. It's like smooth wave, minimal jazz techno. Tennyson is really cool. I think, aren't they Canadian? Luke and Tess. If you're out there, Luke and Tess, don't mute my stream. I'm just promoting you right now, as you can see. Tennyson. Edmonton? Where's Edmonton? Aha! It is a Canadian band. There you go. Beautiful. Last chord. Feels great. All right, enough of that. Unfortunately, we can't just listen to dope tunes because they will definitely mute the crap out of me for that. So we're back to other dope tunes by Matt Cherney, my free music man. Alberta. What does Alberta mean to you, Null Bitmap? So the thing with this, okay, here's the thing with this. It's getting a network error. And it's supposed to shut itself down when it gets such a network error. And for whatever reason, it's shutting it down in a way that does not close the object that we've made which is making everybody very sad. So here's what we're gonna do, right? We're getting back into the mode of debugging. We're going to turn on our logs, always a good thing to do. Like this. Alberta is where Edmonton is. Oh yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I found that out via Google. I thought you were sort of saying like Alberta, you know, saying it out loud in an exclamatory fashion, just being so excited to think and talk about Alberta. And I was just curious if that were the case, whether it's the case, and also, what do you think about Alberta? Because I don't really think much about Alberta, unfortunately. I don't know anything about it, really, which makes me an ignorant American, most likely. But what are you gonna do? Okay, that didn't seem to help anything. Nobody is excited by Alberta. Okay. Well, I guess I've learned something. I guess I've learned something. I forgot. Okay, so if you just do this, it doesn't, the logs get diverted to some file, so you don't get them out on standard error unless you say something. Unless you say something about it. I mean, somebody's got to be excited by Alberta out there, right? Like, Tennyson's probably excited about it. It's Tennyson's hometown. So I'd be excited by my hometown. All right, there's some logs. There's some logs. That's quite a lot of logs. So ultimately, you know, we got this little guy and it's fetching some memory and nobody's ever closing it out. And I guess this isn't really going to help me figure out why that's not happening, unfortunately. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, do it. Return. Make it happen. I'll message you even. I will message you. All right. So what we just have to figure out, it shouldn't be so bad. It shouldn't be so bad. It shouldn't be so bad. We just have to figure out why the heck we're not sending a close message to this thing. And I think that this, unfortunately, might be at the root cause of other problems. And I'm worried that I'm exposing a bug that's always existed, which is always a scary thought. But I think essentially, if it's the case that you can close a connection and doing that action doesn't shut down the query in a orderly way, if that's the case, that's quite bad because it could lead to all sorts of problems beyond just this little one that I've introduced with this new stuff. What's up, D-Rune? So here's what we're trying to do. I probably should have reintroduced. We did a bunch of work on this project last stream, and it turns out there were some problems with it, so I'm going back and fixing a couple of them. But basically, the situation is that this is this database, CockroachDB, that we're working on, and we're talking about how to make sure that the database doesn't run out of memory when you tell it to do stuff, which sounds like a simple thing. And there's a lot of things around in databases that prevent them from running out of memory. So just for an example, let's say we had a table with some integers in it, just a single integer column. And let's say we inserted some data into it. Insert into A, select star from generate series 1 through a big number. So this is just going to insert some data into the table. And you can imagine that in order to do anything to the data, you may or may not have to, like, you know, slurp it up into memory. One example of something that wouldn't have to slurp too much data into memory would be counting up the rows in the table. So if I did a select count star from A, this is just going to be, it doesn't have to like really do any work besides iterating over the rows, right? It's doing sort of like a streaming O of N sort of algorithm. It's just reading row at a time. It's incrementing some counter. And so it's going to be relatively fast, and it doesn't have to use too much memory is kind of the main point. I'm not really sure why. Speaking of fast, this does not feel particularly fast. I'm not sure why it's taking a little while. It might be because there's some other issues with like large transactions. I'm just going to kill this. Let's try again with like a smaller number. We don't need to go crazy here. I'm just for purposes of argument though, bear with me for a quick second. So I insert 100,000 rows into this table. I count up the rows from the table. Nice and quick. Streaming algorithm. Don't have to hold everything in memory at once. If, on the other hand, I wanted to sort all the data, since I don't have an index on this table, if I said something like select star from A, order by A, so that's getting all of the rows from this table A, ordered by the column that also happens to be named A. I did a poor job naming my things here. In order to do this, if you remember your sorting algorithms or your big O notation stuff, you'll know that a sorting algorithm is an O of n log n algorithm in time, which means that it takes n times log n time in the order of if you have n items that you're looking at. What's worse though is that you actually have to store all of the data that you're sorting in memory in order to do this work, right? Unless you do some tricks, and the database pulls lots of tricks if it has to. Like maybe if you had 10 billion rows, you couldn't actually hold all that stuff in memory, so you'd have to spill to disk. And there's ways to do that. There's tricks to do. Thanks for the follow, by the way, Kentro. But the point is that at the if you don't have to spill to disk, then you are going to have to store 100,000 integers in this case in memory. Okay, so taking it back to what we're doing today. We already pay attention to this big allocation. We're going to say, oh man, we know we have to sort 100,000 things, so we're going to allocate 100,000 times integer length amount of memory. And well, we're also going to keep track of that memory that we've allocated, so that if too many people are running sorts all at the same time, they're not going to kill the server, allocate too much memory, run out of memory totally. And that already is working fine. So you can't run too many sorts and kill the server that way, in a sense. The thing that doesn't work okay is, let's do another quick example. So let's say we're going to create a new table, and we'll call it wide, and we'll give it an integer primary key and a string column. And so let's say maybe we like insert into wide values 0, and then we make like a giant string. So like if I did repeat, which just repeats a string n times, if I said repeat exclamation point, and then like, so this would be a kilobyte of exclamation points. This would be a megabyte of exclamation points. And so let's maybe have a big row that has 10 megabytes worth of exclamation points. That didn't work for some reason. I didn't put enough parentheses. So this is, I just inserted, one 10 megabyte row, two 10 megabyte rows, three 10 megabyte rows. And here's the thing, if I went and did that same thing I did earlier, like a count star, or maybe what's worse is like a select count, or let's say maybe sum of length of B. So this is gonna sum up the lengths of those B columns that I inserted. What this actually has to do is it's gotta pull in these big fat columns into memory. And it can't avoid doing that. And in fact, it fetches things in chunks too. So what it's going to have to end up doing is fetching, 30 megabytes of data in this example into memory all at once. And let's say, imagine you had like, 2,000 or 5,000 clients all performing this exact same query at once. Even though we don't have any memory that we're accounting for like a sort or anything where we know we have to buffer up all that memory to do stuff like sorting or joins or aggregations or hash things or whatever, we still are allocating a ton of memory. And the thing is that before yesterday, or whenever I did this stream last, I guess it was Friday, we weren't accounting for that memory at all. So that was a big problem. And we were seeing all sorts of memory crashes due to this stuff, and people running into out of memory issues. And my theory is that it was because of the lack of accounting for this sort of transient memory that we have to allocate in order to do our work. Yes, that is a true point, D-Rune. Sorting can be improved with indexing. So in CockroachDB, it just so happens that we don't use B trees. We use LSM trees. So we use this storage engine called RocksDB, which uses something called an LSM tree for storage. But the same principle applies. It stores sorted values in order. So to sort by something that's indexed, you just have to read them in order, just like you're saying. Thanks for the follow, Akapucha. Appreciate that. But anyway, I mean, the point is that for a case like this, where you're adding up all of these big fat columns in memory, you can't avoid slurping stuff up, and you have to account for it somehow. So that's what I was doing last stream. And if you want, I'll send you the link to the PR, just so people, if you're interested in following along, you totally can, because all of this stuff is open source. And if you type !CockroachDB in chat, you will see some information about that stuff. But this is the PR we're working on. And the trouble is that the trouble is that in many cases it's working okay, but there's some problem where we don't close down these memory accounts that we're using to track that memory in time. So we sort of we close them down in many cases, but we don't always close them down. And basically we make sure that when we shut a query down, that all of its memory accounts are closed. And if we haven't done that, then we crash or we throw an error. And right now I'm getting errors, which means that I've done something wrong, and I'm trying to track that stuff down right now. Yo, Ryan Craig Martin, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. So I'm going to show you this error that we're going to get with a lot of logs as well. So the error says panic, unexpected, 10,240 leftover bytes. And that's exactly sort of what I'm trying to explain, which is that we have bytes that we didn't release. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. So sorry, that was a really long catch-up explanation, but I appreciate you asking, Droon, because I hadn't really re-explained it since the stream started. So you did me a favor. Thank you. Cockroach is a row store. It's not a columnar store in any way, shape, or form. I have plans to change it one day, but we're not there yet. I would like it to be a hybrid. I would like it to kind of use these. I don't know if you've seen this PAX batching stuff that came out of some research, or this thing called Resi that Google uses in their spanner database. But you can have sort of a hybrid approach where you have chunks of columnar data, and that can provide a really good hybrid for OLTP queries, so those point queries that row-oriented databases are really good for, as well as analytics queries that are columnar databases are really good for. So I'm hoping to eventually get to a place where we have kind of that hybrid approach. Yo, Droon, thanks for that follow. Appreciate it. And Koopy, thank you as well for the follow. Databanks. Okay, so how are we going to go about debugging this? Essentially, the issue is, I think, like right here, when we call close, we get into big trouble. I think what we should do is take a look at what this cleanup thing does. Row-based flow 423 sounds nice. Yeah, I think it would be pretty nice. I think there's a reasonable path to getting there, sort of. It would be a lot of work. I think most layers of the database would have to learn about this stuff in order to make it happen, but I think it'd be possible over time to make that happen. It'd be really powerful, really interesting, cool project. I think the biggest thing that I would be afraid of is actually, migrating all of the data that existed in that row at a time, row-based format. That's one big scary thing. Another big scary thing is like, how much do you have to teach the underlying layers about how the data is encoded in SQL? MemSQL style, I'm actually not sure how MemSQL works. So you tell me. MemSQL seems like really interesting technology, but I don't know too much about it. I have some friends who know more, but I actually don't really know how it works myself. So this cleanup thing, I mean, it doesn't really seem like it actually closes anything. So this is the call, this eval context stop thing. This is actually what triggers the issue. It's like if we haven't released all of our memory by the time we hit this line, we're going to run into bugs. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And I guess maybe there's a step that happens before this that's supposed to close everything down. So let's maybe take a look at this line, this SQL running 438. Right, so we closed, I think this is the thing that's really supposed to do it, right? If we've gotten to here, then it definitely means we've gotten to here. And if we've gotten to here, then theoretically, I think we're supposed to have iterated through all of our plan components, closing each of them, which means that we should have gotten to the memory monitor that did not get closed. Which, if you look at this log, what's kind of neat about these logs is that they tell you every time we allocate any memory anywhere. It's like a very verbose way of logging. And so theoretically, I think I should be able to see somewhere I think it's this, right? It's like fetcher mem. That's the new one we added. And if we didn't see anything that's like fetcher mem is now at 0 bytes, I think it's basically, that's the culprit in a sense. Oh, hybrid. Rowan Columnar is, I see. So MemSQL is sort of hybrid as well. You've been working on it. Do you work at MemSQL? Or do you use MemSQL? I think another thing that's confusing here is that we're running 2 tests. That one's a subtest. So I think if I pass, I think it's like there's 2 subtests. One is true, one is false. It's like, do it distributed or not. So let me try to just see if one of them on their own will fail. Makes it a little bit easier to track down what's going on if you're just doing the minimal test case that does it. Okay, so that's good. This smaller test case also fails. I do think it's really because of this. And okay, so what can help us? What can help us here? What can help us? What's really unfortunate is that we don't know who is calling this fetcher mem guy. I mean, I assume it's this table reader, but it's not necessarily the case that it is. There's a few components that use this component, and it would be nice if these things kind of named their accounts based on their parents. But Spark is your thing. You work with a lot of different things. MemSQL Redis, not yes Cockroach. Okay, that's cool. Spark is really neat. I mean, Spark is a really cool piece of technology too. I don't know enough about it either. You contribute to Spark only? Okay. That's cool. What kind of stuff do you work on in Spark? I know that they have a similar, like, I mean, I think a lot of what Spark is like how to distribute the, data processors around the cluster, right? MemSQL is not open source, right? But I think they have a decent number of papers about, how they work and stuff like that. I could be wrong. So this is the thing that's supposed to get called, right? If we get called this generate trailing meta thing, we hit internal close. I think I know what the problem is. I think I know what the problem is. I think it's right here. I think we need to make a little helper method. So we'll say func. It's like if we get called, closed in this way but not the other way, then I don't think we're calling our cleanup method. I think that's probably the issue. So let's see. It'll say if tr.internal close. Then we run all this stuff up here. I think this has got to be the issue. Hope so anyway. Guess this has to take a context. Oh, do we not always have a context though? It's kind of weird. Because I thought that we used this pattern all over the place, actually. Oh, it's got a context. Okay. I mean, I guess I can do that. It's just kind of an anti-pattern to store a context in a... Oh, we already have one. What am I talking about? Never mind. But if you guys know Go, you probably know about contexts. And I think, I mean, we have this belief that it's sort of an anti-pattern to store a context in a struct, because it's like, it can be very confusing to figure out which context you're actually using, which context you're supposed to be using. It's kind of an easier thing to always be passing context, as an argument through your call stack. But we're not doing that here for whatever reason. Probably be just because it's sort of annoying. Yeah, I mean, look at this. For example, you can see that there's 2 variables. One is called context and one is called original context. And it's like, if you have to pick which context to use and one's original and one's non-original, like, I think you're gonna have a bad time. Like, it's very unclear which to use. I mean, I think in our example, I just don't know if it even matters. Whatever. We'll just keep. This is a perfect example of why this is confusing. But anyway, it's all good. Okay, so let's rerun our tests. And the reason, by the way, the reason that I have this hunch is that I know that there's a couple of different ways. Oh, we didn't actually even use it. Sorry. Let's not rerun our tests yet. The reason is that there's a couple of different methods of closing these SQL processors. One is that kind of this method. And another one is this generate trailing meta method. I think often we assume that this generate trailing meta thing gets called all the time, but it's unclear to me whether it really does or not. Like there's this little hook, this guy, and a lot of the time people put their like unconditional cleanup stuff in here, and I think that that might be a mistake now that I think about it, but I don't know. I think it would be good to clean up that contract because it's definitely a sticking point that has confused me many times. Many times, and probably others too.
Database.
Yo, Richard LV10. Thank you for the follow. Level 10 Richard. You've leveled up quite a bit, my friend. You know the level 100 boss meme? You've leveled up quite a bit, but you're not yet level 100, so keep working on it. Okay, so we passed. That's awesome. I wonder if that was the whole issue. I don't know. I mean, I wonder whether we have kind of a similar... How do you determine which type of close process to use? Is it too broad of a question? I don't think it's too broad. I mean, so basically what's going on is that you have to imagine like, what happens when you're trying to close one of these distributed queries.
Computers hooked into over 1,000.
Let me show you an example of what a distributed query looks like. So I can run a demo with 3 nodes. So this is going to be a fake little cluster with 3 nodes inside. I can make a table inside of this cluster. I'll give it integers and more integers just because it's always easiest to deal with integers in test cases. And I'm going to insert a bunch of data again. So I'll say select g comma g plus 1 from generate series. I'll put 100,000 rows in again. Whoops, what did I do? Did I say select? I meant to say insert into a select. Okay, so I've got 100,000 rows in this table, and I've got 3 nodes in the cluster. Now, in CockroachDB, if you keep inserting data into a table and keep putting load onto a table, it'll automatically split into different ranges over time. But since I'm not doing that, this is just a little demo, I'm gonna do it by hand just to speed things up a little bit. So I'll say alter table, split at values, and I can give it some values to split the table at, and I'll give it like, I don't know, 30,000, 60,000, 90,000 or something. Again, you don't have to do this in reality because it'll alter table A, split at. Too many columns. I always forget this syntax. In reality, it would automatically do this if you keep putting data into the table, but yeah, it's just sort of for the purposes of this demo. And I'm also gonna scatter these ranges across the cluster. Again, you wouldn't have to do this in reality, but just for the demo. So alter table A, scatter. And then if I say show ranges from table A, you can see that the leaseholders are now sort of distributed across 2 of the nodes. I kind of want to get them on all the nodes, so I'll run scatter again until we get a good distribution because it's sort of random. The scatter thing is a little janky for sure. It's just kind of for testing. Okay, so now we've got a good distribution. So look at what happens when we say select count star from A. Rather, if I do an explain dist SQL, which is a thing that shows you, it kind of helps you visualize the graph. So here is, and you're going to be familiar with this, I think, if you are familiar with Spark, by the way, Drewn. The idea is that this is a distributed plan. There's 3 nodes, and there's processors on each of the nodes. And you can see that in this case, we're doing something pretty simple. We've pushed the count aggregation as close as possible to the data. So that's pushing the counts near the data rather than having to stream the data across the network pointlessly. And so it's neat. I mean, you can see that this is just like on a just a purely exciting note. Like, this is cool. You know, we're counting up all this data, but we never have to send more things over the network than just the counts themselves. It makes sense if you think about it, but the database does this automatically. You don't have to think about it. So pretty neat. But back to the thing about closing. The idea is, like, let's say, you know, you are this node here. So when it says response, what this means is that this is the gateway node that you asked to run the query in the first place. So I sent this query to the response, you know, node 1 in this case, and I asked it to do all this stuff, and it set all this stuff up, it's running it. And what happens when I cancel the connection, right? So what happens when I, you know, close the TCP connection or otherwise shut this thing down, cancel the query? How do I propagate the fact that I no longer care to return these results to all of the nodes in the cluster, or in the query, that are, you know, all of the things that are participating in this query throughout the cluster? You can imagine that maybe, you know, each of these things, maybe the table is way bigger than just 100,000 rows. Maybe it's like, you know, 100 billion or something crazy. You can imagine that it would take a long time to count up all of that information. And if somebody wanted to kill the query before it was finished, which is also something that we were working on stream, by the way, we were working on a way to, you know, terminate queries from the web UI. If it wanted to do that, the question is, how would you signal to these nodes, node 3 and node 2, that were finished on node 1? And that's kind of like the fundamental question, and what's hard about this closing stuff. Virtual Sanity, thanks for the follow, by the way. I don't think I said it. Thank you. And here's something, let me admit something. I actually don't remember how that close process works. Now that I think about it, I don't really remember. And it's a good question, because I don't know. And I feel a little bit sad about that fact. I'm like, how does that work in our system? I don't remember. Does it send a message back? Does this guy constantly ping this guy, asking if it's still, you know, interested in results? Is this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't actually remember how it works. But I think we could figure it out. So if we go to this thing called inbox, this is the part of the query that is listening to other nodes pushing data, right? So there's an inbox. There's 3 inboxes here, and they're all getting sent data from each of these different nodes. I guess there's just 2 inboxes, actually, because 2 of these things are remote and 1 of them is local. And so the question is, in this inbox, what happens? What happens when I tell this inbox to, like, I don't care for any more data? How does it signal its inputs, in a sense? So I'm not sure if we can figure this out, but I want to figure it out. I very much want to figure it out. So say done. How do you see tricks used in columnar stuff, Parquet, like storing stats for some, min-max for using each? Yeah, so that is a good question. I don't know if we're gonna get all the way there, Droon. That is not necessarily in my plan, because the truth is that, like, storing those statistics is quite expensive. And if, like, CockroachDB is really optimized around OLTP queries, and it's going to be optimized around OLTP queries forever. Things that significantly hurt OLTP performance are not things that we want to add to the database. That being said, there is an interesting idea. This is not something I came up with, but if you're familiar with LSM trees, so that's the storage technology that we use at the bottom of the database, RocksDB, and Pebble is sort of our equivalent of RocksDB that we've been working on. So the way LSM trees work is that they are immutable data structures that are compacted as they grow over time into larger and larger blocks lower down in the tree. So you can start out with many small blocks of immutable data, and as you get too many of those things, you combine those blocks of immutable data into a bigger block of immutable data that sits lower down in the tree. And so the idea that's actually extremely neat is that the farther down this immutable data goes in the tree, the more likely it is that it's cold, in a sense. So the less likely it is that it's being updated all the time, I think, is how the calculation goes. And so you can imagine that after a certain point, in that tree. So maybe after the third level or the fourth level, you could decide, well, I think that this data is now going to be used more in an analytics capacity than an online transactional capacity. So maybe that's the moment at which I would like to transform my data from being row-based data, so key value pair data that's one row per one key value pair. You might want to decide to say, hey, compaction engine, when you're compacting into level 4, please give me that hybrid columnar row format. And maybe that's when I want to kind of, push those stats down, like you're saying, Drew, add the sum, add the min, add the max for each column. That's an idea. This is a super cool, I would love to work on that. I don't know if it'll happen, but it's a very neat concept. Yo, Jay, what's up? How you doing? Happy Sunday. Maximilian Dude. I like that emote. I like the little leather glove there. So yeah, here's what we're doing. We fixed some tests. You know what we should do while we're chatting? I want to commit this little mini change and push it up so that somebody else can run these tests for me while I'm blabbing, so I can know whether it really fixed all the problems or not. The truth is that there's just so many tests that if I tried to run them on this laptop that's also streaming, it would take like literally forever. So we don't do that. We send it to the cloud. We like to run our tests in the cloud. But we were doing, somebody asked a very insightful question. Kiachi asked this insightful question, which is when you shut down a query, which is, in this big DAG that's got, multiple nodes participating in this query, how do the other nodes know if somebody canceled a query? It's not an easy question, and I don't know the answer, and I wanted to try to find out. So basically, this is this object that's listening for inputs. This object sits here. It's listening to node 2. It's listening to node 3. And when I say close, what does it do? Like this is a good example. Like we've got some comments here. The method comment. Now wait for one of the events described in the method comment. If a cancellation is encountered, nothing special must be done to cancel the reader go routine as returning from the handler with closest stream. Okay, so I think what this is saying is that the reader, we don't have to care about canceling it because it's already going to have been canceled if the context was canceled. The question is, how does this guy know? And I still don't get it. So let's say this reader context was canceled. What happens is that I return an error, local reader canceled, but then nothing else happens. So it's got to be at a higher level, right? Who calls this thing? This doesn't really seem right. I'm not gonna lie, this feels a little bit sketch. It feels like I'm definitely still missing something big. I think this is where it's at, this draining. This is where it's at. Chachi. Okay, I'll try to remember that. I think I've butchered your name several times on this stream. No, man. Like, I think that right now it's a really good question, and I don't actually have too much of an agenda right now besides fixing those tests. So I'm actually very interested in following up on your question. Don't think it's weird. I want the CI to run on this, but it's going to take a little while. It's going to take quite a while, so I have to think of something to do. What's up, Cold Always? Drain meta. It all comes together in a little in a way. So the way I was talking about this metadata draining business, right? Yeah, so it's like, at the end of a run, you're like, stop giving me rows, but give me back metadata, and also do some other stuff. And I think part of the other stuff that happens is that each thing is asked to drain its metadata. And when you ask the inbox to drain its metadata, which happens right here, then what I do is I send drain signal, which pushes on the same go. Okay. I figured this out. So check this out. You see this arrow? This arrow is actually, it's a bit misleading because you see how it's one directional. In reality, this is a bidirectional gRPC stream. And somebody was asking me about this in the stream the other day. Do you use bidirectional gRPC or just unidirectional? We use bidirectional. And the reason is for things like this. I want to be able to send a signal from this inbox up to this outbox that I'm done. And that's what we're doing here. We say stream.send consumer signal drain request. And when you get a drain request, then you're like, shut everything down, give me your metadata, but don't do any more work on the road. So that's kind of how it works, I think. Virtual Sanity, thanks for the compliment. Appreciate that. Taking a look at Golang, the day's going pretty good. I was saying earlier, I was out in the park earlier today. It's a very nice day here. I was chatting with friends. Good weather. This kind of feels like a nice part of the summer, not too hot. But yeah, fixing some tests, trying to figure out how this database works. Exclamation point Rust. I don't have anything for that, Virtual Sanity. I'm not sure if that's kind of like a Kappa moment for you, but even though I like Rust and it seems like a cool language, I haven't really done too much with it. In fact, I've done almost nothing with it. Yeah, it's something that I want to look at one day, but I haven't really gotten the chance. Right, so what I think I sort of wanted to do is just double check that there wasn't a similar bug in these other similar processors. You're just curious? Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, so I think that my guess is that if you're just a beginner, I don't know if you're a beginner or not, but if you're a beginner trying to, look at a new systems programming language, I think I would pick Go first. Because it's got a little bit of an easier learning curve and it's going to get you started with stuff faster. It really depends on what you're doing. It really depends on what you want to do. I think there's this whole tool for the job thing, right? It's like you kind of want to use the right tool for the job. And so it depends on what you're trying to program. I think if it's extremely performance critical and you can compromise on no performance aspect, I would probably pick Rust, even knowing that it's going to be more of a pain in the butt to make it happen. Because I do know that I think it doesn't have a garbage collector, right? So that's a huge advantage if you know the allocation patterns of your program. If you can predict these things in advance, you're going to get some advantage with Rust. Are they going to be worth it though? Is it going to be slower for you to do your programming? Probably, unless you're good at Rust. Do you need to learn a little bit more? Is the learning curve harder? I think the answer is definitely yes. If you want to write a program, then you don't care that much about, you want it to be fast, but you don't need it to be like, oh my God, drop everything. Performance is the only thing. Go's a good thing to look at. If you're writing a web server, I don't know. They're both great languages. Learning Python, but you think Go has a big future? Yeah, I agree. I think Python's, if I had to pick a single language that's the best for beginner programmers, 100% Python. I will always pick Python. Python's just so cool. You can use many different paradigms in it. It's not stuck in imperative only or functional only. It's got all of these different flexibility, and it's great for learning. I think it really will serve you well to learn Python. So the bug in our other program, in our other little processor, was that when we ran consumer closed, we weren't using the same method of closing ourselves down as we were in the trailing meta generator thing. And it seems like we're doing the right thing here in the join reader. So I guess the question is, if we have similar things elsewhere, right? So there's a few more little spots in which we do something similar. %% of user code in Spark is Python. You remember recently reading that Discord is trying to move their services from Go to Rust. I do think that it makes sense. If you're a company that you're trying desperately to scale, trying desperately to use as few resources in your program as possible, Discord's a good example of that. They have a huge user base. It's only growing. They're doing, CPU intensive things like, audio encoding or whatever, audio transcoding. I think Rust is a good choice. So it makes maybe some sense for Rust, for Discord to try to do some of their most performance critical work in Rust. I like that. What's up, Lef? How's it going? I did a lot of Java programming at my last job. I like Java. I think people hate on Java. And sometimes with reason, you know, it's like a very verbose language. It's like, feels like, you know, it's a little bit trapped in like the olden days or something, but I think it's a very good language. There's a lot of expressivity you can do with it, a lot of abstraction capabilities. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Java. And I think Scala is also kind of a cool language. Dude, Assert, you're such a troll. This is like the 3rd troll comment that you've made. So I'm gonna time you out for a little bit, but come back in 10 minutes. We're talking about the language. You guys don't like Java? Lef, you don't like Java? I think Java's come a long way. If you haven't actually used Java, and I know many people kind of have this bad impression of Java, which is fair. You know, it like has a bad impression. It probably deserves it, but it's gotten a lot different. You know, if you haven't used it in the last, you know, 5-10 years, it's come a long way. It's got streams, it's got lambdas, it's got all sorts of cool stuff, and it's really fast. You know, the GC is really, really good. It's definitely, don't sleep on Java. That's kind of my my point here. It's powerful stuff. You haven't used Java since Java 8. Well, Java 8's pretty recent, right? I think in Java 8, isn't Java 8 the one that they added lambdas into, or am I crazy? Okay, yeah, it had all that stuff. I first started using Java at Java 6. And it just had generics and stuff. I'm talking about Java in general. I don't know. I mean, I haven't actually used Kotlin. Kotlin seems cool. I'm just talking about, you know, plain old regular Java. Kotlin people seem to really like. I'm also a big Clojure fan. Speaking of other JVM languages, who's a Clojure fan? I did a lot of Clojure and I found it really, really fun. I never did it for professional life, but I thought that was a really cool language. And yeah, I was just into it. I kind of wish that there was a Clojure equivalent that wasn't JVM based, because I think I would use it. Chachi loves Clojure. JavaScript is the thing to hate? What about, yeah. I started doing some TypeScript on stream, and I kind of like TypeScript. I'm into TypeScript. Elixir. Now, Elixir I haven't messed with. I haven't messed with Elixir, but I'm friends with some of the, well, not friends. Friends is a really strong word, but I've worked with a couple of people on the Elixir, in the Elixir world, because they've been trying to make their kind of DB adapter stuff work with CockroachDB. And they've been very insistent. This guy, not just insistent, but sort of like interested over the years. So it's been awesome to work with them to try to make sure that it's actually working. Java, Python, Go, Elixir. Maybe I should check out Elixir. You know, Elixir is not something that I know too much about. And it seems like it's getting a lot of popularity, so I should probably look at it. Yo, Ivy Lina, thanks for the follow. C# 9. Now that is something I've never gotten into. I've never done a Microsoft language, JB Pratt, but people say they're really into it. So I think I should probably check that out too. F#, have you used F#? That's supposed to be really cool too. Beam is powerful. Another language that I really like that I did a lot in school was Standard ML. That's a pretty weird one. I don't know if probably most people haven't played around with Standard ML, but it's kind of like similar to OCaml. But it's a super cool language. It's one of these like statically typed, strongly typed functional programming languages. So similar to Haskell, kind of OCaml, kind of similar to Scala. Yeah, Beam is right, exactly. It's kind of the JVM equivalent for Erlang and Elixir, right? You really like OCaml? Yeah, that's cool. It would have been really pretty neat to do some of that stuff for professional programming, you know, some of the strongly typed FP stuff for actual job. I've never done that. Sounds like it would be really fun. I bet I would learn a lot. I've only done it for like hobbies though, and school stuff. Crystal? Yeah, Crystal is like a newer language, right? Oh, you did some Advent of Code stuff with it? That's awesome. One year I like stayed up every night doing the advent of code stuff. Trying to be as fast as possible with it. That was super fun, but I got really tired out. So I'm never gonna do that again. But it was really quite fun the year that I did it.
Computer's hooked into over
What
1,000
am I
data
doing?
banks.
Yo, Jonathan Torres and KH Rampton, thanks for the follows. So what we're doing is we're looking for all of the processors that actually read data from disk. We're just trying to make sure that they don't all have the same bug. And then we can be kind of done with this thing, assuming that CI is passing, which I still am not sure if it is. Thoughts on Lua? Now Lua, that's an interesting language too. That one, I hear a lot of good things. People use it for their like game engines, right? Like they'll put an embedded Lua interpreter inside of their game, so you can like write scenes and stuff, right? I've never really used it. I think maybe one time I programmed like a little script in Lua for some reason, but I don't remember what it was for. It seems fine. I don't know. It just seems like another scripting language. I'm not sure kind of what its pluses and minuses are over other things besides the fact that it's easily embedded. NeoVim's made in Lua. I think it's popular for things where you want to provide a user-defined programming language, so that you can customize a program or customize a game. I think that's why Lua gets really popular, because it's so easy to embed. Uses Lua. What's up, Dyed Quartz and Swiku? Sysbench TPCC. So they made it possible to script a load generator in Lua. That's cool. Next language to experiment with is Rust. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what are the things that read from disk? You got your table reader, that does it. You got your zigzag join, that does it. You got your lookup join, your join reader, that is. Ooh, and then you got this new one, this inverted join. So we got to look at this guy. Inverted joiner, I think it's called. Make sure that it doesn't suffer from the same issue. So I think it would be nice if we just had a unified way of testing this, but I don't really know how you do it. So I'm not going to try. Oh, and then you got one more. This big old scary thing called the interleaved reader joiner. So this, you guys, this is really cool stuff, but I'm also trying to delete it. So I don't know if this ever happens to you, but this is this like kind of crazy feature that CockroachDB has had for a while called interleaved tables. The idea with interleaved tables, I made a whole video about this actually. But the way that interleaved tables work, do I have my iPad here? Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the old whiteboard. I haven't done this in a little while. Navigate this sea of wires. I wanna show you how interleaved tables work, because it's really cool. The video's on my YouTube, which is, I think, linked from down below. But let's see. Oh, this is troublesome. I think my is like my Apple Pencil out of batteries. Dude, this is not going well. This is not going well. Maybe the iPad is gonna have to wait for another time. Yeah, okay, forget this. Anyway, it was gonna be a cool idea, but I can send you, oh wow, look at that. I didn't even turn off the green screen thing, so you can still see these drawings, but I just can't add any drawings. So it's no good. Rip in pieces. Anyway, let me just link you to this video on the off chance that you're interested. And I gotta turn this thing off. There we go. Yeah, so right, exactly the Ronin. big distraction for no good reason. But the idea, I'll do it in text. How about that? We'll do it in Vim. Why text edit? That makes no sense. So I'm gonna open up a little thing. You can imagine that, let's say you had two tables, and let's say one had a primary key, like an ID, like this, and then you had another table, and maybe it had an attribute too. Like, I don't know. Let's make it concrete. We'll have users, so they have an ID, and maybe they have like a name or something, name string, and then we also had like what do users have in our world? They have zip codes. No, that's not a good one. How about like cars? The cars that they own. So it's going to have a user ID as its primary key. And it's also going to have like, no, sorry. It's going to have a user ID and a, maybe it's like, this is sort of like our this is a terrible example. Anyway, whatever. We'll just continue on, even though this is kind of a bad example. And it's got like, I don't know, a car color, something like that. And then you have a primary key of like, you know, user ID, car ID. Tasks, yeah, I could have done tasks. Okay, so here's the idea. If you had a common query where you all the time you wanted to figure out for a given user what all of its car colors were. You know, this is, again, bad example, but we'll just roll with it. You'll use the query like this: select star from users. No, you'll say select car color from users, join cars on users.id is equal to users is equal to cars.userid. I guess you could just go like this. So you'll say, maybe we want the car ID and the car color like this. So you'll say select car ID, comma, car color from users join cars and users.users ID, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what this does under the hood in Cockroach, if the definitions are like this, is that there's going to be a bunch of keys on disk. One is going to be kind of looking like this, like users one, and then like it's going to point to, you know, since Cockroach is sort of a key value database under the hood, underneath SQL. The way that the key values are mapped from SQL is that it sort of looks like this. On the left side, you have your key, which is your, you know, the key of your index. In this case, it's just the primary index, but it could be other indexes. And in fact, we include that in the key. So this number here is going to be the index ID. And this is going to be the sort of value of the thing that your primary key is, or your index is. And you're going to point it at a value, which is going to be the name of the user. So I don't know, maybe left or something like that. And then maybe the second user is the Ronin. And the third user is, the last person who talked was Droon. And then down somewhere else, we would have the cars. So you'd have like this, you'd have cars, primary index, user ID is 1, and the car ID is, you know, I don't know, 100 or something like that. So left's got 2 cars. You're lucky, left, you've got 2 cars. And maybe the Ronin has, you know, 1 car or something like that, and like Droon, you're sorry, but you have no cars, so there's no keys for you in this table. Okay, so imagine we had to do this join, right? And actually, let's say left. Sorry, you're gonna get extra lucky. Let's say you had like a gajillion cars, and let's say these were all different numbers, you know. So in order to get all this data, you actually have to do an annoying thing, which is that you have to scan this table first. Sorry, let's also make this constrained. So we're gonna say, select car ID, car color from users, join cars on user ID. And maybe we also want the name of the user. You know, and you'll say where user ID is equal to 1. So you're gonna have to do some annoying stuff. You're gonna have to scan here first of all. And then you're gonna have to go down here and scan all this stuff. So all of the ones where cars, all of the keys where the prefix is cars11, indicating that it's the cars for user 1. Right? So the problem with this is that you have to scan in 2 different places, and the data is no longer local. So it's inefficient. And you can imagine that since this data, this car data, is like mostly always accessed alongside this user data, and they share a prefix of their primary key. If you see up in our definition, you can see that ID in primary key is the beginning of the users table, and user ID is the beginning of the cars table. It does have this suffix, this car ID, but we don't care. We just want this suffix, or this prefix rather, to match this prefix here, and it does. So what we can do in Cockroach is if you say the magic words interleave into or in parent users of ID. So this is saying, I think it's like this actually. I always forget. Am I referring to the column of the parent or the column of the child? I don't remember. Anyway, if I add this sort of magic word to the cars table, what it does is it actually interleaves all of the data for the cars table inside of the users table. So what this looks like is we take all this data, we stick it up here, but this wouldn't make sense because of course, like this wouldn't sort. On disk, like all of this data is always going to be sorted. So what we have to do is we insert this prefix here, the same prefix. So we'll say users11, and then we insert a special number, which is like the interleave prefix marker. And you get this big fat key like this. And same with the cars table, or sorry, with the other rows in the cars table that we were looking at. So the point is that then when you do the scan to do this join, all you have to do is read this data. It's all contiguous and you don't have to do any skipping around, any crap like that. So that's the idea with interleave tables. And the idea is that theoretically, it gives you performance advantages if you do a lot of joins like this. Also, if you're doing a lot of inserts into both of these tables at once, theoretically, it could give you advantages because let's say this data all lived on the same range, which it likely would. Then in CockroachDB, if you're inserting data just on a single range, you get a fast pass transaction, like a one-phase commit transaction, which is a lot more efficient than if you have to do multi-range. So theoretically, these interleave tables can give you some good performance advantages. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that in practice, it's very hard to organize your data and organize your queries such that you get these advantages. And what's worse is that inside the database, making sure that every case that uses interleave tables, I mean, I don't know if you can see, but like these keys that we made here, they're kind of weird. Like they don't behave normally. This like interleave prefix marker thing is kind of like a weird wart. And there's all this special case logic everywhere to try to deal with the fact that there could be interleave data everywhere. And that's like, it's sad. It's a big maintenance burden. And what's worse is that we don't actually even utilize the capabilities that, you know, this data layout could provide you in every place that we could be doing so. Which, you know, it makes it so that it's like, well, what's the point of even having this thing around? What's even worse is that there's bugs in this thing. I mean, I'm almost certainly still bugs in it, but we've definitely had bugs that we fixed just because it's so complicated. So long story short, I'm actually trying to get rid of this feature because I think it's just not that good. It sounds like it would be good, but in reality, the costs outweigh the benefits. So I have this issue. If you want to, you know, rue my name or cheer me on, you can go to this issue and upvote it or downvote it. Where is it? Maybe it hasn't made it to Google yet. Check this issue out. So this is going to be a good summary of my thinking here. There's no alternative. I'm just planning to remove it. It's a little bit extreme, right? Like, when do you remove features from a product? I think this is a question to ask yourselves. Like, let's say you were working on a big product. When do you remove a feature that's not really working out so well? It's not helping your users that much. It's a big maintenance burden for you. It's a trade-off, you know, and I think that in this case, deleting this while making sure that everybody who's using them already, like, that's an important thing. You have to provide an off-ramp. Make sure that people who are using this stuff, they can leave it without running into big problems. But I would very much like to make this happen because I think it's going to make everybody's lives better. This sounds crazy. What, you like the feature? I think the feature is slightly crazy. Or deleting it. I'm not sure which one you meant. But anyway, so this is the code that does it. This interleaved reader joiner. I've been talking about this for 20 minutes, and this is the code that actually does it. I think it's, you know, it's a complicated thing. So the code is complicated that makes it happen. But, you know, this actually doesn't seem that complicated. I think the complexity lives in a different file. Where is the file? I know that there's this kind of like wild set of functions somewhere that deals with this stuff. I don't really remember. Is there any way to get user feedback? Do people actually use it? Yeah, so I mean, a few people use it, and we've talked to them, and we've said, hey, we're thinking about getting rid of this thing. How do you feel? And everyone's like, yeah, we don't really care. Like, sometimes they're a little annoyed. They're like, you asked us to use this thing. And we're like, yeah, true, but we thought we've realized that we have better ideas, or like, we realized that was kind of a bad idea, sorry. And we said that to them, and they're like, yeah, okay, fair enough. As long as you can get me a way to migrate my data off of these things, I don't actually really mind. Yo, Kadobes, what's up? How's it going? Any large users? Yeah, it's... The problem is that, like, yeah, exactly. They just use it because we told them to. They don't actually really care that much. And you know, when you go to the trouble of explaining the downsides of this thing, people realize, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you mean. It's like, even in the best case, even if when everything was working correctly, and even if you had implemented all of these things, which we haven't, even given all those things, it still doesn't give you a huge performance benefit. It's extremely marginal. And for such a marginal thing, everybody can see that the cost is just too high. Anyway. First time you've seen the kind of organization just for the sake of small performance. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was might have been a little bit misguided to add it in the first place. But you know, it's a cool idea. It's a very cool idea. And if it all worked out, like, you know, maybe it would be worth it. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so the only reason that I came into this file in the first place was that I wanted to make sure that this close code is implemented right. That's really all there was to it. So if I go to my, where is it? Consumer closed. See, I don't know. This is a bit suspicious. I don't think this is actually right. I think we have the same bug in this code. I think what this really needs to do is when we initialize it, how does indexing work on top of that? So if you come back to the example, let's say I wanted to say, you know, the query select star from cars where user ID is equal to 1 and, sorry, I think I have this slightly wrong. We wouldn't actually repeat this one since we already have it in the parent. But let's say I said select star from cars where user ID equals 1 and car ID is equal to 305. What we would do, and in fact, why don't I just show you with explain? There's no need to do this fake example when I can actually just do a full demo of it. It's very easy with explain and stuff like that. So I'll make a table again. Create table users, ID int primary key, name string. I'll say create table cars, user ID, car color string. I need to give these integers. And then I'll say, I know this is overlapping. I'll say primary key user ID comma car ID. And then I'll say, wait a minute, I've screwed up the syntax. Hold on a sec. I need to get rid of this parentheses. This is annoying. Okay, so I'll say primary key user ID car ID. Close this out. Then I'll say interleave in parent users of ID. Okay, sorry, that took a second, but here's the thing. Let me insert some data. So I'll say insert into users, values 0, Drune, and 1, Chachi. And then I'll say insert into cars, values 0, 100, blah. I'm about to. It's all gonna be worth it. It's all gonna be worth it. Just wait a quick second. Okay, so then check this out. If I say set auto trace equals on KV, what this is gonna do is when I get data back from the table, it's actually gonna show me the whole keys that it fetched. So it's a little small, but you can see that this is the data that it fetched. It's got, you know, /cars. Wait a minute, what happened to my interleave? maybe this is an example of something, again, that like it doesn't do that well with interleaved tables. Like this stuff is not working quite right. I would expect it to have this user's prefix, actually. But anyway, so I'll just show you the explain. I'll show you the explain. So if I do explain select star from cars where user ID is equal to 1 and car ID is equal to 200, what you get is this big old span here. And this is kind of how the index is working. It's giving me all of the keys from the first user. And here's the sort of table and index prefix in this inside of the interleaved key. And here's the key's value in the interleaved key. Does that make sense? I'll make it a little bit. So where user ID is equal to 1 and car ID is greater than 200 and car ID is less than 300. So you can see a range. So with the range, it looks like this. You can see that it's giving me all the keys in between 201 and 299 with this big prefix. What's up, Uno Dos 3? How's it going? Nice to see you again. Thanks for the follow, Nero CR, by the way. All right. Kind of a tangent, but that's what's up. That is what's up.
Computers hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
SIFDZ. Thank you for that follow. Okay, so I have exactly the same bug as I did in the other one, and I've got to fix it. So I'm going to make a close method for this interleaved reader joiner called close. And I'll say if irj.internal close, close this fetcher, right? And then I'll invoke this thing from consumer closed, and likewise from generate trailing meta, irj.close. Okay. So I think that will fix these problems. So let me re-add this thing. Drune says, Big indeed, my friend. Still processing. Let me send you this video, because I made a video on this very subject. And I think my video channel is not that good, but people did like this one. So maybe you will like it too. Where is it at? It's called Exploring Interleaved Tables in CockroachDB. So I think this hopefully does a better job of explaining what's going on. And it uses the old iPad technology, I think. Or maybe it's the pre-iPad technology that I used to use, which is drawing with my mouse on screen. Not quite as cool, but it sort of does the trick. Okay, cool. So let's see. What did we want to do next? I think what we wanted to... Do I really want to get back into this though? I'm kind of like in between yes and no. I'm doing this. I know I need to do it, but I'm feeling lazy. Look, this branch is called lazy executor, and I'm feeling like a lazy executor right now. Not wanting to do this work. Even though I know it needs to get done. So the way that this thing works, I guess I'll check it out. The way that this branch works is that Chachi says, would it be possible to tell the fetcher when to close itself rather than the things calling fetcher needing to tell fetcher to close? Yeah, so that's a good question. It's just kind of an artifact of the way that this close process works. We don't have a list of all of the things to close anywhere. And, you know, arguably maybe we should, but the way that it's closed is that we have a list of all of the like roots of these trees. And we know to close each of the roots, and that's it. And each of the roots are responsible for closing each of their resources, as well as the asking their parents, or their children rather, to close. So this aggregator in this example is like, hey, okay, first of all, close any resources that I have inside of this aggregator itself. And by the way, I also want to trigger my child to close. And so there's this sort of, tree walking pattern that happens. And so that's just how the code is organized. I think you're right that it would be possible. We could have this fetcher be added to some list of things to close by an outer object, like up here maybe. But like, yeah, I mean, there could be some advantages to that. You're very right. It could maybe reduce the, incorrect coding prone problem that we have with this thing, which is like everybody needs to properly close themselves. But then again, you'd have another problem, which is that everybody has to report the things that they have to close to the thing that's closing them. So I think it would work. It's just not the way that things are set up. I don't know if that helps. So the idea with this branch, and this is something that I worked on stream like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, like right in the beginning of quarantine. This is an important project that's kind of a pain in the butt. And the way that things are working at the moment is that if the database ever needs to run a query on itself, which happens all the time, if it ever needs to say like, hey, I'm doing some internal maintenance, or I'm like trying to track down some information for somebody from the web UI, or anything where it's just like doing work, meta work on behalf of something else, it often runs SQL from inside of the database. And the way that we do that is this behemoth called the internal executor. And the reason that I call it a behemoth is that it's a little bit like complicated the way it's implemented. It's not exactly done in the best way possible. You could almost say that it was a hack. I think when we added it in the first place, it might have been a hack. And you know how hacks work is like they tend to grow over time. It's like you hack something in just because you need it at that second, but then over time everybody starts to rely on it. And I think that that's basically what happened here. I mean, I don't want to, not give credit where credit is due. And I think this thing is done very well. I think it's a good abstraction that works. If you want to query the database from inside of the database, you can run this thing, internal executor.query row. You pass in some stuff, you pass in the query as text. For example, here's some like internal PG catalog thing that we're doing. The problem with this is not the abstraction, actually. It's actually just the implementation. I think the implementation was, a little bit straightforward. The way it works is actually, speaking of memory monitoring, which is what we were working on, for most of this stream and last time, making sure that we don't allocate memory unboundedly. The way that this thing works is actually that it just reads every row from the query into memory and then serves them back to the client in an array. So you could imagine that this would be really problematic if anybody ever asked for, some unboundedly large quantity of rows from the database. It would blow up, and so that's really quite bad. And even if they, even if we had protection against that sort of thing, it's still not ideal. Like, let's say again we were doing some sort of streaming operation where you don't have to hold all of this data in memory at once. If we were doing such a thing, then it would just be unfortunate. It would be a waste of memory. It would be inefficient. It would hog up the memory for things that users would want to use it for, which is, doing their queries. So that's sort of the problem. And a few months ago, thanks for the follow, T13. A few months ago, we worked on this patch that, what does the commit message say? It says switch internal executor to iterator pattern. This commit removes the non-streaming way of using the internal executor, replacing it with a simple iterator style interface. Release note, internal queries are streamed instead of buffered, potentially using less memory. So that's what we did. And we never finished it, which is a major problem that I have on this stream, you guys. I don't know if you've noticed, but I think it's very easy for me to start exciting projects and not totally finish them to completion, which is something I'm working on. It's hard to deal with, especially as a manager. I don't actually have that much coding time during the week. In fact, I have almost none. So that's why I do the stream in large part to, scratch the itch, to get the cool projects done that I want to get done when other people don't have time to do them, And so anyway, it's sometimes hard for me to finish these things because, you run out of time in the day. But this is something that I really want to get done. And I want to get back into the head of the game. Realize you weren't yet. Cool. Well, I appreciate that. Does the internal SQL engine have the same priority as the user sessions? That is a great question. You assume that we have such a concept of priority. And the answer is we kind of do and we kind of don't. We have a transaction priority concept, which helps you decide in what order transaction conflicts should be resolved. That's what transaction priorities are for. But we do not have such a concept for general SQL. And that's a big deficiency. Big deficiency. We don't have a concept of quality of service in the SQL engine. We don't have a concept of, really anything like that. It's a huge problem. And I don't really, we don't really have a good answer for it right now. It's something that we're definitely thinking about, especially as if we want to get into more of an HTAP kind of style of database, we have got to figure out a way to add priorities, add quality of service, make sure that you can run analytics jobs in the background, right? Like right now, it's just not like that. Analytics jobs get exactly the same priorities as everything else. If they use 10 cores across 10 machines, that's just so be it. There's nothing that's going to stop them from doing that. Luckily, we don't have anything that causes a query to burn, as much CPU as possible or anything like that. There is some, inbuilt limitations, but they're not enough. So it's a very insightful point, Drew. Not something that we're going to solve this time. But it's definitely something that I'm a bit scared of. Anyway, so I think what I did is I added this interface called Query Iterator. Query Iterator executes the query, returning an iterator that can be used to get the results. And I think what I did in a really boring stream is I plumbed this thing literally everywhere. I went around, I did some kind of regex stuff or macro stuff, and I replaced all of these usages of the old non-iterative query thing with this iterator one, which uses, Go doesn't really have a good support for iterators, so you have to sort of build your own every time, which is sad. And the pattern that I settled on is this: you run this query iterator thing, and you get back an object called internal rows. Internal rows is an interface. I need to document this stuff. Why don't I do that right now? Resource management. Yeah, exactly. Internal rows. So we have some resource management. This whole memory monitoring concept is a very important building block to resource management. The memory monitoring stuff theoretically gives you the access to know for every query how much memory it's using, and you can actually even predict that ahead of time to some degree. We have the plan. We have this cost-based optimizer. And you can tell the cost-based optimizer to ask it how many rows do you expect to be read by this plan? How much memory? Well, we don't really have stuff like that, but we could work it out because we know for each execution operator, the order of amount of work that it has to do, whether it's streaming or not, whether it has to buffer all this stuff. And together with the optimizer plans and the costs and the query cardinality estimates and the histograms, all this stuff, we have all this information that we could be using way smarter. And you could inflate ahead of time predictions, being I predict that this query is going to use 50 megabytes of memory on this node and 20 on this other node. And if you can't reserve that amount of memory, or if you are an analytics query trying to reserve that amount of memory and you're high up, you have memory pressure, you have just kind of not enough headroom, then you could reject things at head of line instead of trying to run them. That would be cool, but we're just not there yet. It's a fascinating area of research. I think Spark does a huge amount of stuff with this, right, Drew? You would know. I think Spark, a lot of what Spark does is it allows you to run all of these jobs all at once. So it's got to have some kind of concept about this stuff, right? So internal rows is an iterator interface that's exposed by the internal executor. It provides access to the rows from a query. Period. That's it. Cur returns the current, the row at the current position of the iterator. Next, advances the iterator by 1 row, returning true if there is another row to examine. I guess I'll say returning false if there are no more rows in this iterator, and an error if an error was encountered. Yeah, this is exactly like query sets in Django. Rapusita. How's it going, by the way, Rapusita? Error returns an error if returns the... What is this error about? Looks like I didn't finish. Looks like I didn't finish whatever this is about. Oh yeah, I kind of remember. So the way that this stuff all worked out is basically that I did it with channels. And the way it works is that we have a little Go routine pushing data into this channel. You found me in the science category? Oh, that's cool. I'm always curious to see how people find this channel. So it's interesting to know that it's from the category. Do you watch a lot of other science and technology Twitch streams? So it looks like for every row, we push the row into this channel. And we push either a row or error. So we have this struct that allows you to use a single channel rather than 2, which is kind of nice.
Computers hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
Yo, how about that? Thanks for the follow. A lot of work has been done in using stats histograms, absentee, adaptive stuff, like learning from past executions in Spark nowadays. Massive improvements. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's really cool. I should look at how that stuff works, honestly. Yeah, I mean, learning from past executions, that's a whole nother level. We haven't even touched that even a little bit.
Computers hooked into over 1,000 data banks.
Not much. Sometimes you code to more chat and gaming here. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, man. Thanks for the follow, by the way. Yeah. Only category you watch? Oh, that's cool. It's good to know. So I don't know if we actually even really need this, because I think the way that this works is that we either get an error from next. We either get an error from when we call the iterator in the first place. So that's like the query iterator method. So that gives us an error for on connection or something. We get an error for on next if we encounter anything, and we're always calling this over and over again. And then we get an error on close. So I think we can actually confidently delete this thing. And I think I meant to do this like back in the day, and I just sort of forgot.
Everybody knows that relational databases.
Yo, Chati, thank you so much for the gift sub to T13. I really appreciate that. It's really nice of you. Thanks, man. And T13, welcome to the channel. You can use my exclusive, you know, whatever this thing is, emote. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping by, and thanks again for the gift sub. I'll see you next time. Appreciate that. I've got to add, I have 2 more emote slots that I could add emotes to, and I don't know what to add them as. So if you guys have any ideas for emotes, I don't know what they could be themed as. I really just need to think about it a little bit. Let me know if you've got some good ideas. I like how the sub badges turned out. I think they're really cool. You got another gift sub? Man, you're just like getting tons of gifts today. What a day. What a day. So I think when we get closed, there is a chance that we could have seen an error on this channel. And I think that that's what this is about. So I think what we really probably want to do, I mean, I don't really know. I think we would probably want to drain this channel and see if there's any things on it, and if they have any errors, we could return them. That's basically what we want to do, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, let's just keep documenting this interface at the very least. I think I can get rid of this. Closes this iterator, releasing any resources it held open. The error returned must be checked. Types returns the types of the columns returned by this iterator. The returned array is guaranteed to correspond one-to-one with the tree.datum's rows returned by cur. And that's basically our interface. Anyway, so I guess what I was looking at was like just some examples of how we were using this thing. Which we have plenty of. We have no shortage of examples. But right, we get these rows back. We check this error. And how do we actually use them? Well, we grab the types and we have this little loop. We say for OK error equal to rows dot next context, making sure that error is nil, and OK error is equal to rows dot next. Grab the row with rows dot cur and then do a bunch of stuff. Cost-based optimizers are the most complicated shit you ever work in databases. The amount of heuristics and decisions that are evaluated at runtime build time is getting out of control. Yeah, I mean, I think that the optimizer is a complicated piece of code, but it's very cool. I don't know, if you're familiar with optimizers, I would definitely recommend checking out the way that CockroachDB's cost-based optimizer works, because it's very neat. And if you look at the rules, the way that we define these rules, you might actually be surprised to find out how not complicated they are. So if you go inside of this package SQL op, that's where the optimizer lives. You can go inside of various different directories, like the xform directory stands for transform, and that's where all the transformation rules live in this directory. So there's just a few transformation rules. Let's see. What's the one that has more rules again? I don't work on this much. Maybe the normalization rules. So there's a bunch of rules in this normalization package, and check out how they're implemented. It's really just so neat. We've made this domain-specific language for expressing these rules. Let's look at the ordering one. So check, it isn't just so elegant. I really find this stuff very, very neat. The way that this works is that it's a pattern matching language, where you match a pattern of operators with some wildcards, and you specify what that pattern should be transformed into at the bottom, using the same language. So it's sort of like a structural regex, perhaps you could call it, or a structural search and replace. And so you can see what we're doing here. Well, I don't know. Can I even figure out what this thing does? Maybe not. I'm not an expert at how these rules really work. It says simplified limit ordering removes redundant columns from the limit operator's input ordering. So somehow this means that actually, I'm not sure what this : syntax means, but you can get the idea. The idea is that, like, I wonder if I can think of sort of a better example that doesn't use any of the fancier syntax. I feel like the transformed ones are cooler to look at. So let's look at that. Let's again look at those transformation rules. What about scan? This is not a good example. I think this is a good example. So generate limited scans. This is saying if you have a limit operator that's sitting on top of a scan with a particular constant. So that's what this is. This is saying, select star from table blah. That's what this line is. And this line is limit, and this line is, 5, for example. So this is saying, this limit is a positive integer, it's a constant, whatever. It's saying that I can convert this line, this expression, into the result of another rule called generate limited scans. And what that allows you to do is, under the hood, you can generate a more efficient scan that doesn't actually have to give you back everything from the table, more or less. Maybe still not the best example. The best example would be something really tight that just like always eliminates a join or something like that. I just don't know where these things live. But it's very neat, and you should explore this stuff on your own time if you're interested about how optimizers work, because I think it's fascinating stuff. Like lexical analysis. Yeah, I think there's some very similar stuff. Lexical analysis. I mean, that could mean various different things. I think that's about like the lifetimes of variables and stuff like that. That's what I think of when you say a lexical analysis. And I think these things are, yeah, they're related. I think they're related. So, yeah, one thing that's a bit scary, frankly, about this iterator change is that you have to, like the actual code pattern that you use to use this stuff, it's just not that elegant. You know, I sort of said it out loud earlier. You make this like ugly looking for loop. For okay, comma error is equal to rows.next. And then you make sure that error is equal to nil and okay is true. That's the, loop condition. And then the advanced condition is, you call rows.next again. So first of all, you're repeating yourself twice. You say, okay, error equals rows.next of context twice at the beginning, at the end of the loop. It's kind of ugly. And then this is just, it doesn't feel very Go-like. So I think it's easy to mess up. And yeah, I just don't know. And the other thing that's really scary is that at the end of this loop, you have to check the error, or else you could be in big trouble. And this is an example of a place where I didn't do that. I tried to write this script that converted all of the old non-iterator methods into the iterator methods, but I didn't check the error at the bottom of this one. What you have to do is you have to say if error is not equal to nil, return s.server error of error or whatever. And it's terrifying to me that I didn't remember to do that here, because how many other places did I not remember to do it in? So we'll fix these ones at least, but it doesn't make me feel that happy. There's like a lot of examples of us forgetting to do that. I think later, like I started out not remembering to do this little suffix thing when I was doing this big transformation, and then I remembered to do it later, but like it was sort of too late, and I didn't go back and fix the ones that I hadn't done. It's I don't know if you've ever done this, where it's like you have to do this massive code change where it's like a bajillion people use this one API, and you have to make a change to them all at once. But it's not easy to do it right. It's easy to kind of do it in a haphazard way, and that's, I guess, what I kind of did here, to be honest. And this is just like a random file that I picked, so it doesn't feel that good. It does not feel that good. The compiler doesn't warn. Yeah, I don't know why the compiler wouldn't warn this stuff. That's a really good question. I think it's because like I do check it. I check it here. Maybe it does. Like we do have all these linters. Maybe I just didn't really look at the linters. Iterator. So here's this PR. And 3 days ago, I pushed this thing up, and a lot of the builds failed. A lot of tests failed, right? So it's like, in a sense, it's okay. Like I wasn't able to accidentally ship this thing or anything like that. But yeah, what were the linting failures? That's kind of what I'm most interested in, because the linters will catch all sorts of, problematic issues, like not forgetting to do stuff. Maybe it's in this file. Whoops, sorry about that. I need to turn that sound off because I know you guys find it annoying. Let me turn that off real quick. This is not the right file. Oh, you know, it didn't even manage to like compile completely. So I can't even talk. You know, it's like, it's very possible that the compiler would warn about this stuff. I just haven't like gotten to that stage yet. It was just such a massive change that I never really finished. That like, I don't know. Anything could be going. It's kind of just like a big old work in progress is basically what I'm trying to say. Why is this called rows 1? Because we already used. Why is it called rows 1? It's because we redefine rows down below. Let's just rename this to be rows. Wait. And then I guess here we have to say this, and we might have to say var error. No, we don't need to say that. Yo, Tim Baudet, thank you so much for that raid. How are you guys doing? Welcome to this channel. Tim Baudet and Turtles race in to save the day. Wow, this is exciting. Holy crap. This is really cool. You know, I've never actually even seen that Twitch raid global emote. So thank you for introducing that to me. But how's it going, you guys? Welcome. What were you up to in your stream, Tim? Tell me about it. What we're doing right here is we're working on this big change to this database, CockroachDB, which is changing how the internal interface for SQL works. It used to be that it slurps all of the results into memory all at once. So kind of bad. You never want to do that, because what if some query uses a lot of memory? You'd prefer to stream the data out. And so we're changing this internal interface to be an iterator-based streaming API. Master Agent Miyazaki. That's a great name. But welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. My name's Jordan, by the way. I'm an engineering manager at work, but on my stream, I do mostly programming stuff to get, you know, I like programming, so that's why I do it on stream. But I work at this company that makes CockroachDB. So I do a lot of CockroachDB stuff on stream. Also, it's an open source project, so you can check it out.
The database
learn about
too big. I have to narrow down
it's a cool
the search.
database. Good thing to learn about.
Do that? By guessing.
Hey, Big Bad Jeff. How about that? Interesting mechanical keyboard. You like it? It's comfortable. Yes, I do like it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really use it.
Over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
But you can hit exclamation point keyboard to learn about that stuff. You love Cockroach, Graham Weldon? That's really awesome. That's really super cool to hear. You fix a ton of bugs and things. That's cool, Tim. So what do you guys usually work on your channel? Like what kind of projects? Rodnix and Master, thanks for that. Thanks for those follows. Really appreciate it. So, right. Basically, we did this giant refactor on stream that we're sort of re-picking up from a couple months ago. And we're realizing something a little bit eerie, which is that we forgot to... There's like an important thing that you have to do at the end of this iterator pattern, which is check the error. It sounds basic, but you know how it works in Go, right? It's like you run this thing, you get an error back, and you break the loop in this particular case if error is equal to nil, but we didn't ever check that it was equal to nil and propagate it if so. That's very bad if you missed that stuff. Drune, need to go, but 2 things for you to look for. Detect data skew joins and change join strategy at runtime when you dex. Yeah, those are really good. Those are good things. Those are very good things. Good suggestions. We'll get there one day. Thanks so much for hanging out, Drune. I hope you stop by another time. By the way, for everybody joining in for Drune, you know, I do stream every Friday, 3 p.m. EST, as well as every Sunday, 6 p.m. EST. So that's kind of my schedule. But see you later. Cool. So yeah, I mean, I almost feel like what I need to do is like write a little program to detect the lack of error checking that I'm sort of running into here. Because I feel like this approach that I'm doing right now, which is to just sort of hope that I find the ones that are broken, is not that great. I do think that a bunch of tests will fail if I don't get this stuff right. So I'm sort of like medium okay with that, but like it definitely doesn't feel great. So yeah. You ever been in this situation, you guys? You know, giant mega refactors that touch a billion lines of code? it's hard to know how to deal with them. I'm not gonna lie. It is real hard. You know what I should really do is I should search. I think I actually could do this because this Golang, I don't know if you guys use JetBrains, but the JetBrains IDEs, so this is Goland. It's the Go JetBrains IDE, and it has this really amazing, regex search and replace that's very nice to work with. So maybe what I should do is use that and try to detect situations like this that don't have this error check at the end. I think that actually might work really well. So I'm gonna try it out. So my regex is gonna be, it's basically gonna be exactly this, and then a big dot star that allows multiple lines. So let's try this out. We're gonna, bad pattern. Oh, I probably need to escape a bunch of stuff, right? I probably need to escape these parentheses, as well as these brackets, right? Okay, so that's cool. I found all of these things. And then next I just need to kind of ask it to give me everything. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do like a multi-line anything. That's kind of questionable. But I guess I could start by, I can ask for a new line. And then I guess I just need to say like, because I think that dot star is just like within a single line, right? As you can see, it is sort of within a single line. It's not gonna continue. And at the end, I guess I'm gonna have a single bracket, right? I think I need something stronger than dot. I need like, anything. So it would be like /word/big word. Does that work? That does actually work, but it's too greedy. Oh man, this is not easy. And I think, I don't know if regex is actually powerful enough to do this, right? Because it needs to keep track of the number of braces and stuff like that. So what I really need is a parser, and I don't think this is gonna work at all. So I guess I kind of take it back. I really need like a structural find and replace. Or even just a structural find would work. Don't they have such a thing? Don't they have like some kind of like Go structural find and replace? T13, is there a better way to handle these loops so it doesn't happen? That's a great question. I mean, that's a question. I wasn't able to really think of a better API. Do I use pre-commit? You talking about that CI thing I was talking about that Anthony Sotile works on stream? No, I don't use that, but I've seen it. Anthony, that's like kind of one of his main things that he does on stream, and it seems pretty neat, but I don't use it. Unless you're just talking about general pre-commit hooks. You can write a plugin. Yeah, we have a lot of linters that check for stuff like this. It's just, the question is, what language to write that plugin in, and whether I really want to go down that big rabbit hole right now. I mean, I guess JetBrains claims to have such a thing. I've never used this, so we might like learn something together. Search structurally. What does this mean? What does this mean? This could be really cool. Maybe I'm going to learn something big. So if I paste in this big old file type, wow. Have you guys used this before? It doesn't have a file type for Go. Is that for real? Okay. It doesn't have a file type for Go, so it doesn't work. Never mind. I take it all back. We're not doing that. It's not going to happen. I think that T13 is onto something though. It's like, how could I structure this loop so that I always am forcing somebody to check the error? Somebody had this idea where I could theoretically have like a deferred function. So let's say like when you get this rows, you said like, but the thing is you still have to check the error, right? And it's like, you can't really check an error and propagate it in a deferred function that easily in Go. So no matter what you do, you always have to like write, either rows.error at the end, which we got rid of, or like some other way of making the caller check for an error. And I just don't think that there's a really good way around that. Yeah, in other languages, I think that you would maybe be able to like, I don't know. I mean, I think in other languages you could, even in Go, you could pass a closure, right? That's like one thing that you could do instead of this pattern. You could say, you could, instead of saying rows.next and rows.cur, you could say like rows.iterate all and pass in a function. You could say like rows.iterate iterate ctx and then like a function from, you know, row tree.datums to error or something like that. And then inside of here, you could do your you could do your magic. You'd like paste this whole body. And what this function would do is it would run this loop and do the error handling for you. The thing is that I didn't really want to do that because it felt like, I don't know. It just felt like it would be a bigger refactor to do this change than to change it to be an iterator pattern the way that we've done it. I think both are kind of painful, but I don't really know. I don't really know. Yeah, I think for now we're just gonna kind of continue down this path though. We're just gonna continue down this path. I think what's kind of interesting, you might do something like while okay error is equal to rows.next. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we're doing, right? That's like what this loop is. It's just the trouble is that after the end, you always have to check error. That's like the thing that's killing me right now. It's like this little stanza here. This is gonna break as soon as we get a non-nil error, but you have to define the logic in Go to like propagate the error down to your callers. And that's kind of what is so painful about this pattern. So I don't really know. I don't really know, to be honest. But yeah, you're just curious. Yeah, I'm also curious. I mean, I don't know. Sorry. I think you're very right to speculate, because if there could be something better, I would be happy to have it.
The data bank's too big.
Yo, Bailey, thanks for the follow.
Search. How are you going to do that?
Can you put the error checking at the top of the loop? Okay, so you're saying let's take this one for example. The trouble is that every call to rows.next could return a new error. And there's no way to return an error from this line. All you can do is break out of the loop. So, you know, I don't think that it's that easy. I don't think that it's that easy. The trouble is this call can always return an error. And this is really the big bad problem that I have. The other big trouble is that, like, you know, it might be the case that we need to actually free up this iterator afterwards, which is it's kind of another thing that we haven't done. Like I have this close method here, but I don't think we've really invoked it anywhere, which is really quite troublesome. Because for example, let's see what do we have in this internal rows iterator thing? The way that it works is that it's got a channel. It's got this CH thing, and this CH thing needs to be closed. If it doesn't get closed, then it's gonna be a leaked resource, which is really troublesome. It looks like we close it on the producer side. So this is the code. This is the big loop that's like pushing rows into this channel. And it looks like if we get to the end, so that's what this is saying. It's like if the, what is this saying? I think what this is trying to say is like if I've gotten to the end of the execution loop, so I've gotten some commands to execute, that's what these result with position things are. And I know that my results position is the same as my expected end of result position. Something like that. Then we're supposed to leave in a sense. And then we can close the channel. And then that frees the resources. The trouble is that I think there might be situations in which in which this loop gets interrupted before we are finished. And I think that could be very problematic because it would lead to resources being leaked. That being said, we do have this error callback. And so maybe it's the case that if we force the producer to always close this channel, then we won't have like a big problem. I think that was maybe the hope. And that's maybe why I didn't end up calling close everywhere. But I don't actually really know. I think this was like a really major work in progress that I never really cleaned up, honestly. Like just as an example, I'm trying to see what are some of the failures that we ran into in CI. Well, there's one. We should probably just fix these compilation errors first. Let's do that. So we'll go to this file, job scheduler. Trouble here is, okay, so I guess this is some like, you know, merge or rebase skew, is that I made this change a long time ago, and then in the meantime we've introduced some new usages of the old API. So we can switch this one to query iterator.
Big. I have to narrow down the search.
Yo, Yankee
How are you gonna do
Boludo,
that?
thanks for that
By
follow.
guessing.
Appreciate that. So we can switch this to the new API. It looks like the arguments are wrong. Statement. Oh, the problem is the result is wrong. So we'll say this, rows error is equal to, and then we'll say down here, we switch to our new convention, which is pretty gross, of saying for okay, error is equal to rows.next of context. Okay, and error is equal to nil. Okay, error is equal to rows.next of context. It's so janky. It's so janky, but I don't know what really would be better. And we'll say row is equal to rows.cur. And we can say calls is equal to rows.types. And that gives us all of that information that we need to have. So that's cool. And then scheduled job, it looks like there's just a few other of these to fix. Scheduled job. Like, I don't really know what this code is, but it's a pretty simple transformation, more or less. So we can just do it, query iterator. Just do the same thing here. Ret calls is equal to rows.types. Do that after the error check. If length of rows is not equal to 1. Okay, so this is a good example of when we can use the query row API, which is a simpler one that just gives you back a single row without having to deal with any iteration. This is just a common pattern. So we'll do that instead of this. Ret calls. Okay, so then we can get rid of this and we can just return the row. So that's a little bit of a simplifying change. Okay, so then the next failure was scheduled job executor. And with this one, this is another good example of we should be using the singular API, so query row with calls, rather than having to go through this big effort. Master Agent Miyazaki, why do they use nil instead of null as keyword in Go? That is a great question. I don't really know. I'll say that there's a lineage of other languages using the word nil. I think that it probably started in Lisp, which is that, you know, parentheses laden functional programming language that we all know and love. I think they use the word nil. Maybe they have some lineage from that. I don't know. It's a really good question. It is a really good question. What's up, Melky Dev? How you doing? I think we have this like extra random commit that we're gonna squash. So let's do that. Isn't Go supposed to be more like the C family of languages? Yeah, I think it is. I don't, yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really, really good question. You've gotten my curiosity piqued. Go nil versus null. Let's see what they say. Many new Go programmers with experience of some other popular languages may view nil as the counterpoint of null. This is partly right, but there are many differences between nil and null. We can use nil without declaring it. It can represent 0 values of many types. Pre-declared nil has not a default type. Okay, so it's basically just like a typed null or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's essentially null. I don't know why they called it nil. You're a insightful person, master agent, and I don't know. Parts POE, what's up? You've been using DynamoDB in your latest project. It's been pretty good so far. So that's a key value store, right? I've used Dynamo once or twice. I think it's a good. It's kind of like Cassandra, and it's hosted, right? It's by Amazon. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I think where you run into kind of trouble, super simple, super dumb. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, like, when you run into trouble with key value stores is when you need something more complicated. When you need anything that's like enforcing constraints between multiple tables or stores or whatever they're called in Dynamo, then you run into big trouble. But if you just need a key value store, I think Dynamo is really, really good. It's seamless, right? It's like it scales for you. It's like provisioned. You know, you don't have to like worry about anything. So I can see. I think there's a lot of good use cases for Dynamo. Share my command prompt. I think I have, do I have a config thing? No, let me add it. Commands, add, config.
Computers hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
Dot files and prompts and so on live. So
computers hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
Yo, thanks for the follows. Ships huge and parts POE. It's a good starting point. May outgrow it, but probably not. It really depends on your project. What kind of stuff are you working on? What do you need a database for in your project? Have I ever heard of EDI, electronic data interchange? No, I've never heard of that. What is that? Is that like a finance thing? It kind of sounds like a finance thing, but I don't know for sure. What's up, Prickle? Death to EDI. Okay, so we got some EDI lovers and EDI haters. Exchanging purchase orders and invoices between companies. How did I know? I just had a feeling it had to do with finance. It just sounded kind of financy, you know? So you're saying that you're using Dynamo to store stuff about EDI information? It has been somewhat modernized by coupling it with the protocol to AS2, which is basically just S-MIME plus some headers. Whoa. That sounds interesting. It sounds kind of painful. I think a lot of these old protocols tend to be interesting and painful both, right? It's how documents are transferred. X12? Man, this is like some seriously old school stuff. This is like, we're talking about like business, you know? We're talking about the ancient business arts. Interesting is equal to painful, says Uno23. EDI 214. Man, so everybody's familiar with EDI except for me, it sounds like. You wrote an AS2 X12 parser that used AWS Lambda. Oh, that's very cool. That seems like a great way to modernize your business. If you're running on some like mainframe or some crap like that, you can just throw together some Lambdas that do the parsing for you. That seems really nice. So it's cheaper, don't have to run the storage, don't have to run the servers all the time. It scales along with the way that your business needs to scale, and it's all totally seamless and simple. Sounds great. I applaud you. 214's for freight information. And no one will tell you what I told you, that EDI in modern times is basically just SMIME. Yeah, nobody will tell me that. Nobody will tell me that. I'm doing this very boring job of just searching for places where I forgot to do this error translation stuff. My tummy hurt, QQ. Anyone know how to make a try catch in Java? I think you can figure that. I mean, I think this is the sort of thing where if you Google it, that's a kind of jerky thing to say, I'm sorry, but I think that probably Google will do a better job explaining that than I will be able to do, right? Parts POE, that's a good answer. That is a good answer. Is it a conspiracy? Is it a conspiracy? It could be. I feel like a lot of this business, old school business stuff, is kind of conspiracy oriented, right? Because they've, you know, it's like who's gonna maintain all these systems after the people who wrote them die? You know, it's like this Fortran stuff. You've heard of all of the, like, not Fortran, COBOL, right? There's this been like big influx of COBOL programmers, or, you know, need for COBOL programmers, because everything still runs at COBOL. And like all the people who know about them are like dying off. So everyone's like, learn COBOL and you'll get all these like lucrative gigs at finance companies and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, it's not such a terrible idea. If you learn an old school programming language, chances are that somebody's gonna like need your specialist services, you know? But it also might be really painful, so I don't know if I would advise doing that to yourself exactly. Cool to be able to broadcast because you work on open source. Yeah, it is really cool. That's definitely one of the best parts of working at Cockroach Labs, is that I can do this stuff on stream. It's super fun. "100% a conspiracy. And you'd be shocked if you knew how much IBM charges for EDI. Hundreds of thousands of USD a month.
Data banks.
Yo, I am Charenko. Thanks for that follow. I appreciate that. This is interesting. So here's a case where if we get an error, we just log it. All right, well, I'm not one to argue with convention. EDI program is the IBM Sterling integrator? Holy crap. That sounds like some really old school stuff, dude. That kind of sounds like, I don't know, like the difference engine, like the Babbage engine or something like that. You know, it's like they're going back, way back in time. The Babbage engine. Partly mechanical? No way. No way, dude. It's actually mechanical? You had been wondering if companies should take advantage of Twitch as a recruiting and promotion channel. Some probably do. Yeah, I mean, for the record, you guys, I'm just doing this for fun. This isn't like part of my job to do this or anything like that. So it's not like, yeah. It's just kind of my hobby. And it's fun. Like, I like the stuff that I work on at work. So it's like a convenient thing to do. But it's not like this is like sponsored content or anything like that. It's just, you know, open source, blah, blah, blah. Follow trends as much. C# trend in Sweden, C++, less job opportunities, stuck to your guns, full-time, less competition. Yeah. Yeah, I know you weren't T13. I just wanted to make it clear. I don't know. Like, I sometimes get worried. I'm like, I don't want people to think this is sponsored because it's not. Just do it because I love it. If you do like programming, I think streaming is really fun, you guys. I think if you like programming and you like chatting about it, it's just such a fun little thing to do. So I can't speak highly enough of streaming. I have this big blog post. If you want to get interested, or if you're interested in getting started with streaming, I wrote this big blog post. It's linked below about how to get started streaming programming. So if that's your jam, you should check out my blog post, and you might like it. All right. So I think we got through all of these. you're personally thinking about if your company would let you work on feature publicly. Probably not, but you think it'd be interesting. Yeah, you should ask. Is it open source? If it's not open source, I think you might have troubles. You might have big troubles. Okay, for this one, I need to grab this calls. Oh, you read my post, which is what brought you to Twitch. Oh, that's awesome, dude. I did not know that. Or maybe you told me and I forgot, but that's super cool. That's awesome. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So here we need to switch to our new iterator interface as well. Oh, but we don't have a length here. We don't have a length, so we have to, oh, that's fine. It's just, we can just not say anything like this. Don't need to write down the length of the rows. We don't know what they are. So we'll say, we'll use our pattern for, okay, error is equal to rows.next. Okay, and error is equal to nil. Okay, error is equal to rows.next. I don't know, I hate this. It's so stuttery and bad, but every time I write it, I hate it, and I still just don't know of a better alternative. It's not open source, but I feel like companies should embrace that. Some customers would always be interested to peek. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I do think that one of the big powers of open source is that it builds trust. It's like, you can see that there's people behind a piece of software. You can see that there is work going into a piece of software. You can see the bugs that are in the piece of software, and you can see the fixes that are going into the piece of software, right? It's like, it builds so much trust. Let's say somebody finds a bug, a customer finds a bug, and they're like, oh my God, like everything's terrible, like you're doing the wrong thing. And what do? Is you file an open source ticket, and you're like, this is the bug. You know, you don't say who found it or anything like that. You keep that all anonymous. But you say, this is the bug. Here's how to reproduce it. Here's the problem. And then they can watch the software development lifecycle in action. They're like, oh, okay, a developer picked this up and they fixed it. You know, maybe it took a few days, maybe it took a week, but they saw the PR that went into the fix. They saw the code that went into the fix. And that just breeds an enormous amount of trust, especially if it's a product that's focused on developers, right? Because they're going to understand, oh, I see. Here's what the bug was. Oh, I see. Here's how they tested it. Oh, okay. This is why I'm going to trust this piece of software, because they wrote a lot of tests for it. They're sad about the state of the affairs that caused them to write the bug in the first place, and they're excited about the way that you fixed it and tested for it in the future. So I do think that that's a big advantage of open source. Embracing streaming, not necessarily open source. Yeah, that makes sense. Fair enough. But just in general, like when you have a piece of software that's like open source in general at all, like you can look at it, it does breed trust. And contrast that to what happens when you're using a product that is not open source, right? It's like you file a bug and some people respond, but you never see what's going on. You're like, well, what was the fix? I have no idea. What was the bug? I don't really have any idea. Was it complicated? Did they fix it soundly? Did they fix it in a crappy way? Did they hack it? You know, you never know. And so to me, that breeds distrust. But, it really depends on what you want, I guess. In other words, even if it's open source, even if it's closed source, streaming work on new features would be interesting. Sure, it would show some code, but it doesn't matter, especially for client-side work. Yeah, I think the problem that you're going to run into, T13, to be perfectly frank, is your security team and your legal team. They're going to be like, these are company secrets. Like, what happens when you leak some client's name that happens to be written in a random comment or something like that? It's, to me, and maybe it depends on your company, but to me, it's like, unless your source code and your company is built from the ground up as an open source product, it can be pretty tricky from a, just legal compliance, security perspective to actually open source chunks of code. So that's my worry for you. That's my worry for you. I don't know if it'll come true, but that's my worry. Okay, so we need a loop iterator thing for this. That should be easy. We'll say I is equal to -1, I plus plus. All right. So theoretically, those were all of the known places that we use this thing. I wonder if we still have places where we use the old interface. This is the problem. You guys, this is the problem with having a PR that's been open for like a really long time, is that things creep in from under you and add all sorts of places that you haven't changed. Being able to use tuples so seamlessly like that in Go looks awesome. Result, comma, error. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's a good feature. You're not going to do it on your own anyway. That makes sense, yeah. There's so many of these things to fix. Oh, sadness. Okay, I think we're gonna do this file. We're gonna do this file at least, and then, well, I'm just not sure what we'll do after that. Ooh, this is a scary thing. This is a super scary thing. What is this? What is this? Oh my goodness. Oh, this is really trouble. This is really trouble. Aditya Maru. This is trouble. So what this is there's a new interface that we sometimes return that is another, it's sort of metastasized. Because this thing, it's like another interface that I have to change in a sense. Oh boy. I don't feel that happy about this, but they couldn't have known. Aditya, if you're listening, it's not your fault. But it's trouble. It's big trouble. It is big trouble. Or is it? Or is it not that bad? Maybe it's actually not that bad. I don't know. Java doesn't have tuples. It's getting a tiny bit in that direction with Java 14 records feature, but not really. Java 14, oh my gosh. The numbers on Java have gone up a lot. Quite a lot. We were talking about Java earlier in the stream. And we were like, oh man, Java 8 has streams. And it's like, whoa, when did Java 14 happen? That's like, that's a big change. Big change. Okay, so for this one, we can just run exec. We don't need to use query. So that's an easy fix. This one we can just use exec. 2 a year. Okay, that's the same with Cockroach. We'd have 2 releases a year and we call them by the year. So we call them like 20, you know, if it's 2020, we have a 20.1 release and a 20.2 release. We're thinking about maybe changing that, but for now it's just 20.1, 20.2. Better release cadence, but the number goes up really fast. Yeah, exactly. That's why we use the years. But I feel like the years has its own downside. It's like, it's a little bit like, whoops, we can't change that one. The years one is a little bit like, okay, well, like what is it? It's hard to like know what does it mean to be the 2020 release in a sense. It's like the version number abstraction is nice because it feels meaningful in a way that a year is not. So many trade-offs with simple things. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just this one file, so that's good. I was getting a little depressed. I was like, there's been a lot of new introductions of this thing. It's gonna feel really sad. But all right, so this one, not to toot your own horn, but you wrote a custom AWS Lambda runtime, so you don't have to depend on Amazon to push newer Java versions. That's cool. Wow, so where do you host the Lambda runtime? That's interesting. Doesn't that mean you have to manage your own like Kubernetes cluster or something like that? Is that what that means? Or can you specify custom runtimes in AWS Lambda itself? Like, I don't quite know what you mean by that, but that's interesting. Maybe it's like you can say, hey, AWS Lambda, please use my custom JVM. Is that what you're saying? All managed by Amazon still, but it's the runtime, which actually, okay, that makes sense. Open source for the win. Lambda Java runtime. Custom AWS Java runtime makes it easy to specify any JDK version. Makes deploying to the right. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I see. So right now it's sort of like you're locked into a particular Java version that Lambda provides or something like this. And this is a way to specify a more specific version. Very neat. That's really cool. I'm sure the community appreciates you for doing so. So thank you. Not that I'm doing too much Java right now or Lambdas, but it seems cool. So we'll say I is equal to -1. We'll say I plus plus. We'll say if I is greater than, let's see. We'll do it like this. So we'll have a num rows. Well, num rows plus plus each row. And then we'll say if num rows is equal to 1, then we return this error. Otherwise, we return num rows is equal to 2, nil. If only one person finds it by using GitHub search, it will be worth it. Hell yeah, I like that. With the Arctic code vault, yeah, maybe someone will see it in Mars in 300 years. Yeah, right. I think, I don't know, the Arctic code thing is kind of weird. It's like basically every single repo is stored in this Arctic vault. So it's just like this massive copy of the site. And then everybody gets this little badge. I think it's good. I sort of wish that they had like, I don't know, you could customize which repos like are displayed on your profile as the ones that were like archived or whatever. Because right now it's just like by popularity. And I had a commit to Bitcoin one time. And it's like Bitcoin is the most popular repo or whatever. So it's like Bitcoin is now the, you know, the thing that shows up on my badge. Yo, off the band, what's up? I'm pretty good. How are you? I don't know if I know you, but if I do, hello. If I don't, also hello. Like if you go over here, you can see that I'm an Arctic Code Vault contributor to Kubernetes, Rails, and Bitcoin. And it's like, that is just so meaningless to me because I mean, I made like one random commit to Kubernetes, one random commit to Rails, one random commit to Bitcoin. I did so much more on so many other projects, and yet they don't get pinned on my profile. And I want my profile to look good. So what's the deal? They did not want your spaghetti stored in that vault so much, Clark. You got typo fixed PRs in the vault. Yeah, exactly. It's a bummer, but it's okay. You know, it's okay, I guess. All right, so here's just a simple one to fix. We're going to do query iterator. We're going to say for OK error is equal to rows.next of context. OK and error is equal to nil. OK error is equal to rows.next. Just trying to swallow my extreme hatred of this pattern. Maybe I'll get used to it. Row is equal to rows.cur. Cool. Okay, just a couple more of these to deal with. So here we're checking for 0 rows, otherwise we do a loop. Okay. So how are we gonna make that work? We'll say if, let's see, we'll say row error. We'll say OK error is equal to rows.next. Of context. We also have to switch this to the iterator pattern. Off the band, am I also in the Go community Slack chat? I certainly am. I hang out in that performance channel. I don't know if you know that one, but that's the one that I mostly talk inside of and read. And then here I'm gonna say, if not okay, then we do some stuff, right? And then otherwise, we can say for, and we already have started this thing. Okay, error, or okay. And then we say row is equal to rows.cur. All right. So that fixed that. And then we just got to fix this little inner one. And then we've got only one more after that. And then we should be donezo. Donezo. Query iterator. And here, oh, we don't even need to do this. We just need to say, or wait, do we? Len rows is equal to, I don't know. I mean, is this the right way to do things? I don't know, whatever. I'm not gonna mess with this. I'm just gonna try to refactor as mechanically as possible without changing this logic, because yeah, the logic is complicated. So I'll say, okay, I'll say, let's see, okay, error is equal to rows.next, context, and then I'll say if not okay. What's up, OG Jake? How you doing? Then I really want to close this down. That would be great. Okay, very solid. Very solid. This needs to be metadata rows. Looks like you're doing some complex stuff. I don't know. Is it complicated? There's this big code base. It has this pattern that we use all over the place where when we ask for results from queries, it's a database. That's what I'm working on. When we ask for results from queries internally, so internal queries, for whatever reason, the database has to query itself. It happens a lot. We used to slurp up all those rows into memory at once, which is bad because it's sort of, you want to stream those rows if you can. You don't want to have to slurp stuff into memory if you can help it. And in many cases, you can help it. So this project is doing a big refactor to change the interface to be an iterator instead of a slurper, in a sense, if you get what I mean by that. Yo, Random Katka, thanks for the follow. Is it Goland? Yeah, it is Goland. I even have a command for that. Imagine that. It would be cool if there was like a standard, you know, like you can just press those in any programming channel. You're just gonna always get the info. All right, so this is the big baddie. Who uses this thing? Who uses this thing? Just one place. So it should be easy to fix. Okay, so instead of this stuff, we're gonna get back. What is this? Wait, what? Is everything created at Cockroach Labs open source software? Not everything. We have this cloud product where you can provision a database by clicking buttons on a web. You don't have to provide your own hardware. And the code that deals with that stuff is not open source, if that makes sense. The database is open source and the sort of infrastructure around the cloud is not. You're new to databases and have been using Mongo for your first web app just because it's easy, but you're going to learn MySQL in the near future. That's awesome. Yeah, Mongo is a great way to get started with databases, I think. I do think that you're going to want to learn SQL. So I'm glad that you're learning SQL because I think it's a very good thing to know in life. Yeah, I think if you're trying to look for your first SQL database, I would be remiss to not say, please use CockroachDB as your first SQL database. It's a great database to get started with. But in all seriousness, I also would say that if you're looking to do something that's super, super standard in SQL, I think I would recommend Postgres first before MySQL. It's like a little bit, I think it's just a bit better. A bit easier to start with, less quirks, fewer quirks, I should say. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So I don't understand why this interface is implemented in 2 different ways. I find that extremely confusing. I do, I really do. It's implemented once in internal and once in SQL con. Oof, oof, it scares me. It deeply scares me. You know what we can do? Okay, here's what we're gonna do to get around this problem, is that we are going to kind of just fake it in a sense. So we're gonna say query iterator, and then we're just gonna slurp it all up anyway, just so we don't have to deal with this. And I'll leave it to do. So I'll say rows, comma, error. Then I'll say for okay error is equal to rows.next of context. Okay, and error is equal to nil. Okay, error is equal to rows.next context. And then I'm just gonna say I dot result, rather result dot internal ex results equals append result. I wish there was a faster way to do this in Go. It's just so wordy. Rows dot cur. So we're just going to accumulate all the rows into memory anyway, just because I don't really know what this thing is doing or how it works, so I'm just not going to worry about it too much. And then I'll say if I can just go like this, I think. All right, and I think that's all of the things that we needed to change. So I'm just going to push this up. Cool. Okay, I think this is good. I feel good about where we were at. Yo, Dominic, Go 3. How's it going? Cool. So here's what we're gonna do, you guys. I think I'm gonna be done programming for the night, but I'm trying this new thing where after I finish programming on the stream, I play a game of Super Mario World ROM hack. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm gonna come back and we're gonna switch it out. Yeah, get add by file numbers is a plugin. So the way that this works, I should make a command for this because people ask about it all the time. It's called get number by Holy Geek. This plugin is actually super dope and you should absolutely check it out. MongoDB has an implementation feature called replica set. Is the same as CockroachDB distributed. I don't really know, but the answer is definitely no. I don't really know how replica sets works, but I know that they're probably different from how Cockroach works. I don't know for sure though. I should probably learn a little bit more about how MongoDB's distribution works. But anyway, okay, so you guys, I know that you're probably here for programming content and I'm about to switch it up. So that's fine. And I won't be offended if you want to bounce. But I will say that I do stream programming every Friday, 3 p.m. EST, and every Saturday, 6 p.m. EST. So if you want to come back another time when I'm not doing this gaming
Computers
stuff,
hooked into over 1,000 data
you
banks
are
throughout
absolutely
the world.
welcome to do that. And I hope you send me a follow here and on Twitter where I announce my streams. Thanks, big bad Jeff. I appreciate that. But yeah, so we're about to switch things up a little bit. I'm gonna load this game. So this is a game I've been trying to speed run. Well, at least I'm not very good at this game. That's the first thing to say. And the way that it works is that it's a hard Mario hack. There's this whole community of people who make kind of ROM hacks, which are kind of hacked up versions of this game, Super Mario World, which is originally for the SNES. I played them on emulator. And what I've been trying to do is finish it as quickly as possible without dying. And it takes about an hour, hopefully less. It's maybe like 30, 40, 50 minutes-ish. My PR is like 30 something minutes, 39 minutes. So we're gonna run through that in a little bit. It's got good music. That's another good thing about it. So I'm gonna open up my split timer here. Okay. Let's see. Having some minor difficulties resizing this puppy. Okay. So check this out. We switch to this view. Look at that. It's a little janky. I think somebody told me to make this font size bigger, so I'm gonna do that real quick. Layout. I'm using this like web version of this timer. Layout. I don't really know how to make the font size bigger. Oh, maybe it's in here. Splits. Total splits. Maybe there's no, is there no font size thing for this? Maybe if I click this, no. Maybe I just have to do Command plus. That works. Sort of. Sort of works. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Layout, edit. I want to reduce the number of splits. And I make this like maybe 10. Okay. Okay, cool. So you guys, I'm gonna be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna do some Mario. Okay, see ya. All right. Okay. Why did that timer start, I wonder? Nobody knows. I should change my category. That's another thing to do. Edit stream. Quickie World 2. Super Mario World. All right. Okay, so here's the thing about this, you guys, is that I'm not that good at this game. So, but I've been practicing it. So we'll see, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm also a lot worse on it on stream than I am off stream. So we'll just have to see. But anyway, wish me luck. Let us make this happen. Kind of want, how's the volume? Can you guys hear it? Looks like you can probably hear it, right? Seems good. All right. Speedrun setup 101. That's a good idea. I'm just not an expert is the problem. I would probably not be a good person to give that demo because I'm just a little baby at this stuff for sure. I have like my setup is kind of hacked up because most people do speedrunning stuff on Windows, and I think it's a bit easier to set it up on Windows than it is on Mac. Like the thing that I'm using is like, it's like a web hosted version of the split timer, which I just don't think it has all the features and stuff like that. That thing always gets me. Everything's easier on Windows except getting proper permissions. Yeah, you're probably right about that. This level's annoying. I do not like it very much. It's a good place to get stuck. Happens sometimes. These bullets. That sometimes happens. Big bummer. Ah! Timing. The timing. You gotta get it right, or else you don't make the jump. I think I got a one-shot on this one last time. Definitely not on this time. There we go. No! Why? Don't die to that. That was a very lame thing to die to. Ah! So last time I did this on stream, it was the first time that I played this game on stream, and I was very nervous. This time I'm a bit less nervous, which is good, but it doesn't mean that I'm doing super well. A lot of these levels I really should be able to get in one shot. That would be the dream. That would be the dream. Sometimes somehow we're still ahead though. It's kind of surprising. Don't really know how. Dang it. That's a stupid thing. Sometimes happens. Sad to die at the end of the level. All right, now we got our little baby Reznor boss. Nice. Pretty good. "20 seconds ahead." Yeah, it's not gonna last probably, but we'll see. If I could just do one run where I didn't die once, that'd be huge. It would be so incredibly fast. I think a lot of the time when people do speed runs, it's about like finding fast strats, and for me, it's just about finding strats where I don't die, which is not that easy because this game is fairly difficult. It's pretty easy in the realm of games of this variety. People make like ridiculously hard games like this, but it's still pretty hard. If you're me. The world record holder of this game does it in like 23 minutes, not 23 seconds. It's like 20 something minutes, which is super fast. Getting that right feels good when you get it right. Nice. Don't do that. Okay, it's all beginning to unravel. Look at that precious time just sinking away. There we go. Not terrible. We're still ahead. All right. Oh wow, that was weird. I thought I wasn't gonna hit that jump, so I like gave up on it, but then I got it. But then since I had given up, I didn't make the next part. That's a lesson. It's a life lesson. No, please. Please, don't die to that. I never die to that part. All right. We have a ton of time to game back later in the game. So hopefully this doesn't mean the end of the PB attempt, but we'll see. The Chris G spot. Don't miss that. Don't miss that shell jump. Oh no, that's way too slow. I think I'm dead. The way you're supposed to like shove that thing through at speed and then you land on it. But if you, yeah, I'm gonna die. Oh, that's sad, right at the end. Oof, that hurts. That hurts. I don't really know the secret to making sure that like the speed of the key is proper when you throw it through that wall. The thing is like black magic to me. I don't really know the mechanics, so it's easy to mess up. I just sort of do it and hope for the best, but that doesn't lead you to being the most consistent, unfortunately. Uh-oh. Shit, I'm probably dead here too. No! Brutal. This level is not good to lose time on because it's kind of long. Okay, now just get this throw right. No, so slow. This might be fast enough, maybe. Come on, little buddy. Oh, it's just too slow. Ah, That's really, really sad. I wish I knew the secret of how to make that work consistently. All right. Third time is the charm. We can only hope. There we go. No, it's not ducking. It's just like you have to get it right. I don't know what it is. I think it's just about the moment, like the moment at which you release the key versus like how far you are away from the block. But I just don't know the right quantities for those things. I should probably practice that if I was really serious about this, which I'm like, I don't know. Am I serious about it? It's just a fun thing to do. It's fun to get better at a game. The first time I played through this, it took me a month to get through this whole game. So it's really satisfying to be able to do it in about an hour.
The databank's too big. I have to narrow down the search.
How are you gonna do that?
By guessing.
Yo, Game Boy Link, thanks for the follow. Oh, I hate when that happens. There's definitely like that's like the wall clipping thing. So it's like there's this bug in the game. I think in like the original Mario code that like causes you to sometimes clip a little bit through the wall, and if you're spin jumping and you touch a wall, that can happen, and it turns your spin jump into a regular jump, and it definitely screws stuff up. And some hack creators patch that out of their games, I think. But this hack creator evidently did not, so sometimes you die to that for no good reason. All right, now we're entering the levels that tend to be hard for me. The earlier ones tend to be pretty easy, and this is, they start to get a little bit more likely that I get stuck on them. This one I've gotten a little bit more consistent on, but not that much more. Whoops. That sort of thing tends to happen. These vines are annoying. Like the way they work is you have to hold up to hold onto them. But if you hold up while you're jumping, then you don't jump.
The databank's too big. I have to narrow down the search.
So it is irritating.
By guessing.
Yo, Big Bad. Thanks for that follow. There we go. Arg. R&D work tomorrow, but you haven't prepared anything, you're just gonna wing it? It seems good. Why not? That's what Sunday Scaries are for, just like paralysis, you know? Just sad paralysis. I know that state far too well. Well, I wish you good luck on it. I'm sure you will do fine. Okay, this level has the potential to give me bad trouble. I sometimes get stuck on this one for a long time. Okay, that was not right. The way this one works is that, whoops, you have to throw this guy and slide down the slope in the right way. You can't go fast enough unless you're sliding. And in order to slide, you have to be holding down and nothing else. But you also have to, you can't slide while you're holding something. So you have to like throw it, slide, catch it, and then jump. And it's just not an easy sequence to get right. And I tend to get really messed up when trying to do it. Another thing that I should really practice. No, please give me strength to throw this bomb. Why is that not working? I feel like it's because I'm holding left and right a little bit and not just down. Tends to happen. Oh, that was closer. Trouble is every time I do this, I get stuck in this exact same spot. And sometimes I get it quickly and sometimes I don't. There we go. Oh my God, Lord. So I just screwed something up. Significant change in difficulty? I don't know about that. I think I'm just bad. It's just a different set of skills. Whoops. Like, the earlier levels are hard too, but you just can't tell because I've practiced them. This one, I think it's probably not too much harder than the rest, but I don't really know. I think if you're good, it's probably not too much harder than the rest. If that even makes any sense. Like, if I got this on the first try, you wouldn't even think that it would be hard at all. You'd be like, oh, well, that must have been easy like the rest of them. Why? It's definitely because I'm holding like left or right on this controller while doing the jump. It's gotta be that. Nope. Now I'm stuck. Okay. All right. We're gonna get this. Never mind that we're 4 minutes behind. Another thing that happens with these games is that I feel like if you don't get it on the first or second try, sometimes you get like really badly stuck and confused and your muscles are like, what do I do? You overthink things and then it just gets exponentially more difficult than if you were to just get it by chance on the first or second try. Key is not to get frustrated. If you get frustrated, big trouble. Big trouble. Just gotta... See, that jump was good, but I threw the guy at the wrong moment. Gotta throw the guy at the right moment. All right, so I'm getting the jump, but the throw is now out of whack. Okay, careful. Oh man, this is brutal. I'm really getting brutalized by this level. Dude. It feels so bad when that happens. You can just feel your momentum slowing down, and then your guy's going like super slow. All right. Dude, what? Oh my god, this is driving me absolutely crazy. Have I played Super Metroid ROM hacks? No, I haven't. Have you? I've only just begun to dive into the world of ROM hacks at all, and it's only been Super Mario World. I really want to get a like a Super NT, which is a SNES FPGA console thing, so I can run this stuff without having to use emulator. Oh, that was so close. Okay, we definitely got this. There are some cool ones. That's nice. What kind of stuff do they do? Do they just make it harder like these ones, or do they do different stories and stuff? Oh yeah, there was a strat that I figured out for this, wasn't there? It was like, don't throw it till you get... So you get onto the slope? Is that what I figured out? Yeah, there's a thing, it's called SD to SNES. Some people use that one. But they're like $200. New worlds and stories, mechanics. I think some people use SD to SNES and Super NT, which I'm not really sure why they do that, but... Oh my god, this is driving me crazy. I like my muscles can't remember how to do this jump. Oh, Everdrive? Yeah, I've heard of that. NT can't play some games that have extra chips even when hacked? Okay, I didn't know that. I guess that makes sense. Dude. What's up, Alan262? How you doing? I'm being destroyed by this level right now. Dude, I just cannot remember how to do it. It's bothering me. It's badly bothering me. It seems to get many. Yeah. Sometimes I can do it very quick, and then sometimes I cannot do it at all. Like, I think I've one-shotted this level before, believe it or not. But... it's like the sequence of button presses. I have something backwards. I have something very backwards. Oh, that was close. I think that would have been good if I hadn't jumped late. So I'm focusing on not throwing until I enter the slope, holding down when I go down the slope. I mean, right before I throw. That was right, except I didn't hold down properly. I think I was holding left or right, so the slide didn't work. Dude. Oh my god. Oh my lord. We're in hot potato hell right now. Oh. If I can get out of here before 20 minutes, I'll be happy. Dude, that was also it, and I also jumped too late. What's worse is that I even got across the gap one time, and then I screwed up the thing after it. I tasted victory, you know? Victory was 100% tasted on this night. I feel like there's two options. Either I can try to do this thing that I'm doing, which is to not throw it until I'm on the slope, or I can get it onto the slope with a throw and then do that. But that didn't really seem to work either. Like, maybe I do need to just sort of rethink how I do it altogether, rather than just hoping that I like randomly get it. I don't know. Yeah, what's up, Null? We've gotten badly stuck on this terrible death level. You were playing SM64? That's cool. We were doing pretty good. We didn't have the streaming nerves problem of last time, but what we have is a terrible, terrible problem on this level, which happens to me quite frequently, where I just forget how it freaking works, and I can't get it at all. It's terrible. It's terrible, and you get a problem like this. You know, we're talking like takes you 20 minutes to finish it. It's not good. It's not really good at all. How was your SM64 run? Back half. Dude, I can't like get the little buddy to slide. The slopes are jank. Whoever said that last time, they were right. Slopes are jank. This is sad. This is a sad state of affairs. Dude, it's like if I get the guy onto the slope, then I don't slide. If I do slide, I've thrown the guy too far, like that. You see? It's like I can't have them both happen. Did the music just stop? It just like, oh, there we go. It restarted. It's like, you are so bad at this level that I'm not even gonna play music for you. And then if I do get it all right, then I don't jump at the right time. It's just a brutal combination of failures. It's holding me back from my dreams. Dude, I'm about to just give up. I'm about to just be like, I can't make it. But I don't think that would be good. I shouldn't give up. But I really want to just figure out how to nail this. I just need to figure out how to nail this every time, or else this is gonna be a big problem. A very big problem for me. Okay, what if I throw it? No. Restart the run? I know. I mean, I really want to. But it's just too long now. Like, I feel like I should finish it, because I don't think I have the... Like, I need to go to bed. But the saddest thing, you guys, if I did that, and then I got stuck here again. Which is like a real possibility. A real possibility. Oh my god. Maybe I should just do it. What if I reset and then I got here and then I got it the first time? You know? Like what if that happened? But this is like a different level of failing, I feel. All right, I'm just gonna give it a few more tries here. I feel defeated, you guys. Deeply defeated. Should I just save state to figure out how it's working and then reset or something? Is that what I should do? All right. We doing it. We doing it. I don't know why. Normally I have like a hotkey that you can use to reset, but I had to, something was broken with it. I feel like I'm gonna regret this decision. Oh, you know, on the other hand, what we could do is play this other hack, which I accidentally loaded instead. The first Quickie World. What do you think? Maybe I'll do that. That way we don't have to get stuck on this thing. So this is this other game by the same creator. It's shorter but harder, and I just got to the last level. I've never beaten this one before. So we can try to beat this thing. together. I've never seen it. So oh man. It unfortunately doesn't have the custom music. I think I have to be way faster on that. That's tricky. You really have to go quick. And not that kind of jump. It's a good thing that these games have the like fast reset patch, or else it would be impossible. Some of them don't. Ah, it's hard to grab that thing. I think I should jump sooner. That was close. We'll just do two little hops off of this thing. There we go. Oh, that was better, except I screwed up the block throw. But this I think will be a little bit better. Okay, I didn't do my own strat. There we go, though. Okay, progress. Oh, it's because I'm not facing it when I land or something? So it's sort of like I land, jump right into it. Oh man, this seems pretty hard. I don't know, guys. I don't know, guys. Okay, that's a thing that I do a lot, which is that turning back on these saw blades is like never a good idea. It means you'll usually fall, but you always want to stay like centered on them. See, I did that. I turned back. You see that? Turn back. Never want to turn back. I'm smelling like a tricky shell jump, and I'm not excited about that. Okay, don't demolish that shell. Yeah, I think you need to pick that shell up and then probably throw it up in front of you. And then uh-oh. Shit. Yeah, and I think there's like a segment with a bunch of spikes that you can't walk on, and I'm pretty sure you've got to throw the shell, then jump on it so that you don't die. That's my guess, but we'll see if I can actually get back there. Yeah, the games are hard. The games are hard. I don't know how I did that the first time. I need to replicate that. No. Okay, here's what I need to remember for that. Don't try to throw it in the air. Just try to throw it when you land. But not too close to the thing. There's a lot of little subtle things you gotta get right. A lot of little subtle things. Alright, we're gonna get this. Gonna get this. For sure. Shit. Okay, so for that I have to not jump high. I gotta jump low on the rotating one. There we go. Oh my god. Okay, so it's not a shell jump. It's like, basically, you keep holding the shell. You pop up from the saw, and you do a little jumps on these fireballs. And then I think that red coin indicates that I'm supposed to throw the shell as I'm falling there. And then I probably do a shell jump. Okay, we'll see. We'll see about getting this thing. I think the tricky thing about this is that you have to always get the first segment before you can try the later segments, which means that you got to get really consistent at the first segments, or else you'll never get any attempts at the later segments. I'm not yet very consistent at this beginning part. Like, I do that every time. Okay, so remember you gotta land. Land before you throw the thing. That's the key. And then for that, the key is, I guess, pop up on the second jump or so. Maybe it's like the third jump if you do it quick, and the second jump if you do it slow. That was just a complete fail. That was decent, but I did not manage to get up. I think that would have been salvageable if I hadn't done a big bounce. I'm just like so panicked when I finally land on that big ball thing. I'm like, oh god, don't screw it up. And then that's always a recipe for failure, because you gotta really carefully not move left and right too much on these things. Oh, I see, but I think that is too slow. If I do that, I won't get around it fast enough. So I guess it's like just jump off of the ball thing one hop earlier. Something like that. Right, guys? No, but that's too soon. So it's like a little bit later. Whoops. I guess that's another strat. You can throw it through the cloud if you want. I'm not sure which is better. Maybe it would be better to throw it through the cloud. Maybe I should try that. Do you think that would be more consistent? No, I'm gonna stick to my original idea. That did not work out. I'm really off on like a bad pattern. Like the bounces don't really line up properly. Which says that maybe I need to do like one big bounce instead of so many little ones. Something like that. Okay, that was just pure panic. That was pure panic. Hold on, I need to switch this to be... the right... There we go. That was good. Okay, so it's like 1, 2, jump, 1, 2, jump. If you do that same pattern on both the little saw and the big ball, I think that's feels right. So like 2 little hops and then a big hop. Not on that one. That one needs like 3. See, that was feeling good. Like two hops and a big one. Okay, so that was progress. The problem is that when you land on the fireball, you have to do a small bounce, not a big bounce. What's up, Notter LTV? I don't speak your language, unfortunately. Just joking. No, please. Speak English. How you doing, man? You having a good night? This is driving me crazy. I'm doing all right. I'm just trying this. This is the first time I'm playing this particular level, and it's not doing me. I'm not doing that good at it. But I think, you know, we'll make progress. That's usually how it goes with this. It takes me a little while to learn these things. It's satisfying once you can get them. I find it very satisfying. But until you get there, it's pretty irritating. Oops.
Data banks.
Thanks for the follow, dude. I mostly do like a computer programming stream. That's like my main thing that I stream on Twitch, but I've been trying this out on stream lately after I do my main part of my stream. And it's been fun. I watch a lot of people play these hard Mario games, so it's been sort of fun for me to try to do them myself. The people who I watch are much better than me. I guess it's probably obvious, but they are pros. And it's really pretty entertaining to watch them. So it's just an experiment to see. It's, you know, it's interesting to see like how hard these things really are, because they make them look very easy, and then to play them yourself, you realize that like, oh my gosh, they're actually super difficult. Like it's that, you know, I don't know if you've heard that thing where it's like at the Olympics, it would be nice to have like a regular human being participate in all the events alongside the athletes, so you can sort of see how difficult everything is. It's like I'm sort of the regular human being for Kaizo Mario. Don't turn back. I just said don't turn back, and I turned back. I always turn back there. Okay, don't do that. Ooh, that was close. Okay. My main problem with this is that I just constantly freak out and like start turning back for no good reason. If I could just stop doing that so much, then I feel like I would be doing a lot better. You start panicking, you lose. Yeah, you gotta be zen, right? That was not zen. That was not a zen thing to do. Oh, my lord. Oh, my lord. Oh, my lord. This level is not that easy, I have to say. It's not gonna hold your hand. You have to go at the speed of the freaking saw. There's no stopping. You just gotta YOLO. And not screw that thing up. That was way too slow. Yeah, I'm playing on emulator. I use RetroArch and SNES 9X. It's a very good emulator. But you can play these on console too. You just need to get like EverDrive or SD to SNES and then load the Dolphin. Oh my god. Okay, that was good, but I definitely panicked. Dolphin, I'm not sure. Is Dolphin for Mac? I guess I should have said I'm playing on Mac, not PC, but I thought you meant just like computer. I'm not sure if you can get Dolphin for Mac. It's really laggy? Wait, if it's really laggy, then how could it be a good emulator? You kind of need your emulator not to be so laggy. People say the emulator is good. Like it's accurate. You need to have a good mix of accuracy and performance, I think. That's what people say. I think SNES 9X is a pretty good mix. RetroArch, yeah, that makes sense. I just wasn't sure if you could use Dolphin Core on a Mac, is all. And I'm not really sure what, like, why you'd want to use. I tried BSNES, and that thing was just way too slow on my computer. So I assume that it was Super Mario Wii? I don't think so. The SNES 9X is just for SNES games. I'm sure there's a Wii emulator out there. I just don't know what it is. You really want to play Wii? You should just get a Wii. I feel like they're not that old. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Oh. Look, you guys, I got to a new section, but I screwed it up. So you're supposed to throw the shell, and throwing the shell, you open up this door for the saw. But I failed to do that. And then I guess you do a shell jump here, which is going to be hard for me because I'm terrible at those. And then there's more? Okay. All right, y'all. I think I'm going to call it. It's almost 10. But this has been lots of fun. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. It's been really chill. I stream every Fridays, 3 p.m. EST on Friday, 6 p.m. EST on Sunday. So give me a follow. Follow me on Twitter. We do some programming. We'll do some Mario. It's going to be a grand old time. But thanks again for all the follows, the subs and stuff. Let's find someone to raid. And yeah, y'all have a great night. Y'all have an absolutely fantastic night. Let's raid my guy. This dude plays a lot of really good. He's really good at Super Mario World. Right now he's playing Ocarina of Time, but I like this guy a lot. So say hello to him. And I'll catch you all on the flippity floppity. Peace.